I'm using the new. Hey, we're live. Look at that. I'm using the new studio from YouTube, so I do apologize if things are a bit wonky and I'm not clear on what's going on. But thanks everyone for joining us. And LieratureDevil is coming in, but once again, we're welcomed by Mr. Shiney, and he's our Star Wars aficionado. So anything that I say, I'm be sure to be corrected by him. And boy, we are looking at some fantastic new opinion on Rey, Star Wars in general, and why everything is awesome and great and cool from the perspective of someone who plays the MMO. And I am not such a person. Shiny, you might know a bit more about that than I do. So if there's anything that crosses our eyes, we go, oh yeah, that's true. That's false.
It's been a long time since I played the Old Republic. But I've played everything. I've played to the Eternal Throne and all that stuff.
Okay, all right. So I have not touched the games. I rely on Latalis, who's our resident video game vlogger who does everything: MMO, RPG, BioWare. You pick a popular franchise, he's probably got it covered, especially with voice acting and other such things. He is the guy I go for. So it's always nice to get other opinions or people who actually know the lore and can say this is good, this is bad, etc. So we're looking at a video today called Space Wizard, and it's from a YouTube channel called Lily Orchard, and I don't know what glass of water means. And someone just showed this to me today, and I watched about a quarter, half of it, and I was very confused. I was like, wow, this is a very unique take on Rey and Star Wars in general. And because it was related to the games, I thought, what a nice approach, because we usually get people who are hardcore lovers of The Last Jedi or the movies. So great, we got a different opinion. And wow, what an opinion. I've never heard this suggestion about Rey being good or bad or just, well, you'll hear it when you see it. So let's get started. LieratureDevil will be joining us soon if he hasn't figured out his computer updates. He just got a new computer, so he won't be crashing as much or at all, possibly, from last. But Windows is thus updating him every hour or so for updates as he updates his machine. So that's generally how it goes. But we'll start without him, and we'll see what this video is all about.
We get to decide when and where to fight Arkan. But you're ready for this.
Wish me luck.
Luck has nothing to do with it. Arkan may have bested you on Asylum, but Valkorian's training changed you. You're powerful. More powerful than...
Lana, you're missing the point.
I'm what?
This is the point of MMOs.
Oh, I see.
The bank
When
chicks,
you're
obviously.
done blushing, we've got an emperor to kill.
Don't look so pleased with yourself.
Like just talking about like Old Republic for a minute. The only companions I actually found interesting were the ones that you could romance. All the rest are just I didn't care about.
That's what it comes down to, huh?
I mean, I'm not usually like that. Like when it came to Mass Effect, I was interested in all of the companions, but in Star Wars: Old Republic, it's just if I can sleep with you, that obviously that you're. I'll talk to you. I won't talk to anyone else, unless you're the droid, because obviously the droids are always the best.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a sad state of affairs for character development, or any sort of characters that are not the main character. Sounds like a satirical reaction to Star Wars. You have a kazoo playing the Star Wars theme, but maybe they're just being facetious.
Really slow intro.
I'm sick and have limited time before my throat gives out, so we're talking about Star Wars and why.
Okay, is this a guy? It sounds like a guy. Like I don't know the channel. I have no idea who this is, but it sounds like a guy. Right?
I think it's like from what I'm inferring, from the female name and the female avatar is that this is someone who's transgender but doesn't do the really annoying male to female transgender voice that
I can respect that.
you often hear. I think I actually often do prefer that if this is gonna be weird, but if someone is transitioning, I honestly prefer to hear the male voice rather than the attempt at the female voice, because it just feels like someone's pushing their voice too far.
Yeah.
And it just, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, you be you. Don't try to, disguise yourself. Whatever in your brain makes you believe who you are, go for it. I don't care what that is. It's none of my business. But I see,
doesn't affect us.
Yeah, I see an avatar. That's just an avatar. But I hear him. Like, I'm not intelligent enough to know who this is. I don't know the history. I'm rather ignorant. It sounds like a guy. That's all as far as I take it. So
I think it needs less pontificating on its own
Could
place
also
in
just
the
be a
pop culture
catfish. Who knows?
yeah, exactly.
for lexicon and more Jedi ladies kissing Sith ladies. Fuck you. This is what we're doing. This video has spoilers for Rise of Skywalker.
Okay, again, you share his opinion or her opinion on Jedi ladies kissing Sith ladies. I'm like, fine, whatever. If that's what the MMO is, that's what the MMO is.
If that's what does it for you, then by all means.
Exactly.
But let's be honest, it's not like you actually care. You guys know I love Star Wars. I've loved Star Wars ever since I saw The Phantom Menace as a little kid. Star Wars is right up there with Warcraft and Kingdom Hearts on the list of things that have been a major part of my formative years. That having
Wow. Kingdom Hearts. That is interesting formative years of media to absorb. I think mine was like He-Man, G.I. Joe. This is the 80s, of course. G-Force, Grandizer, Voltron, Astro Boy, all the old 80s cartoons. So that's just where I come from.
been said, I find myself getting really disappointed with Star Wars in recent years. I used to latch on everything having to do with the property, but these days I tend to restrict myself to only the Old Republic. Some people find that weird because there's such a wide breadth of material. I mean, the Clone Wars is being revived. New series, new movies. Look at all of it. And I agree, there's a lot of stuff there, but very little of it is actually interesting. The Clone Wars revival looks promising, unless Disney decides to make it more like the new movies, which are patient zero for the problems.
Or Resistance. Or Rebels, but then again, the first two episodes are out, and the first episode I saw was absolutely it was pretty good. Then again, this episode was written way before the cancellation of Clone Wars.
Oh, really?
So they've had a lot of time to rewrite, because Dave Filoni's been very passionate about Clone Wars, and he's directing it, so he's had all this time to come up with new ideas and ways of fixing it. So,
that would be the biggest, I think, was Ahsoka, whether or not she's alive or dead, and his opinion on whether or not she is in the current series. So.
Yeah, because in the when it came to, was it the Rise of Skywalker, you hear her voice in the background, and so that obviously infers that she's dead because they're all ghosts. Right. But Dave Filoni had to come out and say, no, she's fine, she's alive, don't worry. She's like, this is why I don't think that it was his decision to put Ahsoka in that movie.
Yeah, disregard everything J.J. Abrams ever did. Don't worry, we're doing our own thing too. Fantastic, I like that. Just got a super chat from Mr. Darth Maurock. Long live the Old Republic. Yes, sir. I'm with you right there. Whatever the High Republic is, I have no clue. But my heart kind of lives with KOTOR.
It's going to have dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Don't you understand? It's going to have dinosaurs. It's going to be epic and cool and new because no one's ever done dinosaurs before.
Never in the Star Wars world have we had dinosaurs. It's going to be awesome.
Star Wars has been having lately. It's a lot of deep lore, fandom, metagame nonsense, actively rewriting things that made sense to replace it with some more weird magic crap, and a cast of characters that can be summed up as a character from the old movies, but with a single quirk added. Nope.
See, I like this guy already. He knows exactly how to make fun of the new crap, because...
he's mostly just been taking the piss. Oh, sorry. She.
Oh, sorry. She.
I gotta make sure I get it right, yes. As far as at the moment, these are pretty fair arguments to make against the. I'm just waiting for the moment we're just going to get slapped in the face.
Right.
Because so far, it's okay. I'll give you that.
Right.
Where is this more apparent than the main character, Rey? Her entire character can easily be summed up as, what if Anakin Skywalker was a girl and also a big dork?
I know, say Luke.
Dry blows are gonna.
Luke, in fact, not Anakin.
Yeah,
Because
Luke's
the chosen
personality
one.
is pretty straightforward. Anakin certainly has a personality, but we learn about it very slowly, and that's more to his benefit because we want his character to change, and it changed in a very stupid way, but at least it changes. At least it has an arc. Whereas with Rey, she's just Rey. She's Rey, and then she's Rey again, and then she's Rey some more, and nothing affects that. She's just always Rey. She has feelings, she has insecurities, but they don't hurt anyone. She just does her own thing, and that's the problem with Rey, is that she doesn't have an arc. People think she does because she's a protagonist, but that's not what we see. It's very clear that a protagonist needs weaknesses and interpersonal problems with other people, and she never has them. Everyone just goes along with whatever she does.
Everyone loves her for
Everyone
no
loves
reason.
her. Even the enemies love her. The droids
The
love her.
The girl she fights in Rise of Skywalker, after Rey beats her, she's like, "I like you."
Yes, with a sword pointed at her neck, and she's like, "Oh yeah, she's great." It's like, what? What are you doing?
It's like, "Oh, you'll fetch a good bounty." "Oh no, I like you now. I'm not going to bounty you." Like, if I was Rey at that moment, I would not trust her because she was literally just threatening to turn me in as a bounty. Why would you trust someone after that?
Yeah, it's very odd to have this kind of reaction. But again, Rey is always good. Everyone always likes Rey. She can solve.
No, in fact, her only problem is that she's too trusting.
Yes.
She puts feelings on people too much.
Like her belief in Kylo, who she doesn't want Kylo, she wants Ben, but we have no idea what that means.
She's never met Ben.
We don't know who Ben is
She's
anymore.
only known Kylo.
We don't know what Ben is, what we thought we did, because we saw a flashback, but that was like, nope, he murdered a bunch of people. Ben killed a bunch of people. Oh, okay, that's nice. Thanks, Rey. You like a murderer.
And then they rewrote Kylo as Ben Solo. What we can infer was that Kylo killed the Jedi Temple and he destroyed it. But then all of a sudden we find out in the comics it was space lightning that came down from the sky and blew up the temple.
I finally closed that tab that someone gave me a month ago because I just couldn't believe it. I was reading those 4 images and I was like, wow, this happened in the comic. Wow, what an amazing revelation. And the Snoke hug just blew me away. Like, wow, this Snoke is hugging Kylo.
It's like, oh, look, random person that looks horribly defiled. Let's go. I'll hug you.
Yep, because your master lit up a lightsaber and then felt bad, but you couldn't sense that, so you killed some of his students. Thanks, Kylo. Great story there. Great character.
God, it's such a mess.
Be pieces of us in 3 different systems. What'd you do?
I bypassed the compressor.
You fucking ripped it out like a common garden weed, you big dork.
And who knew a compressor was a piece of a microchip or a circuit board?
To compress something. The word implies compress. I don't think a circuit board compresses anything. And
there are 4 components of
the
mechanical
fuck is this?
engineering or electrical engineering. Compressor is not one of them. So,
when I heard compressor, I thought it had something to do with fuel. Like, because it says, it had a fuel compressor to something 1, and that implies some kind of machinery that does something, not a circuit board.
there's a difference between electrical engineering and mechanical engineering, and this was electrical engineering, and she's calling it mechanical. So if anyone knows anything about first year electrical engineering,
the benefit of the doubt, maybe because she does say bypass the compressor, she rips out a circuit board that powers the compressor. Maybe.
Yeah, possibly.
But then again, if you want to fix something, you generally don't rip it out of the wall.
No. Anyway, we got a super chat from Darth.
My computer's not working. Let me
Balrock
rip this
again.
up.
And he's asking us a question: what came down and destroyed the Jedi? I can answer that. Do you want to answer that yourself?
Lightning.
And where'd that lightning come from?
Clouds.
And where the clouds come from?
In the comics, lightning just comes down out of nowhere and just destroys the temple.
But there's a voice that comes out of the lightning as well, right?
I just think I don't know. Maybe it's Palpatine.
Maybe, or maybe it's Snoke. We
does a
don't
simple
know.
thing.
But
Palpatine does a
ultimately,
simple lightning thing. He
Oh.
like goes instead of going down, it goes up though.
Yeah, so
Or maybe it was Yoda. Yoda did a
it-
similar thing.
Well, that would be really scary. But ultimately, it's Palpatine, right? So if it's lightning and there's a booming voice, and if it's Snoke, it's still Palpatine, right? So
Chief Lord, I don't think because there are electronic compressors like audio compressor, but I think it's specifically mentioned as a fuel tank compressor. It's mentioned.
yes, there is sound technology related to output for compressors. That's true. We're talking about a spaceship using light speed. Okay, bit of a
But
difference.
it's mentioned as a fuel compressor. I believe, I remember.
Okay. That's a very funny art. I've never heard that. Yes, there are sound modulation compressors, thing that filters, etc., etc.
Well, no, I think he was just using that as an example.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I guess maybe, but what else would you be compressing? Because I guess in electronics, compressing generally is just compressing of information to make it more streamlined.
The closest thing would be a capacitor, which stores energy and has a lower charge, so it stores whatever higher current and releases it on a smaller current. So
God, even now we're just finding more problems with the sequels.
well, we're trying to make Abrams smarter than he is, when in fact it comes across as dumber than he is. So sadly.
Don't look so pleased with yourself.
Despite my dismissive tone, Rey is probably the most refreshing, interesting take on a common Star Wars archetype I've seen in years. She easily stands alongside Kreia and Lana Beniko as one of the best characters.
Okay. This is where things
A lot to
start
unpack.
going wrong. All right. So we have Kreia. Kreia, what would you like to say about Kreia, sir?
She doesn't like the Force.
She is
because she believes that it takes away free will.
She is one of the most important characters in Star Wars lore as far as subversion, philosophy, the Sith Jedi dichotomy is. She hates the Force. She has such a unique outlook that no other character is quite like her. She is very unique. The middle character I don't really know because I haven't played the
Lana Beniko.
Right.
She's basically she's a Sith intelligence officer, but she's not really, in a strange way, she's not really Sith. She's very pacified. In fact, the entire Sith Empire becomes very pacified in the Eternal Empire because obviously the Eternal Throne is now the enemy, and the Sith are now working with the Jedi and the Republic.
Yeah,
So they all become very pacified, and they're not really Sith.
She comes
They're
across
only Sith
as an Imperial agent that just happens to have Sith power. And she's very practical. She's very strategic. She's very mature. So with all these powers comes this intellect and rational and logical mind, which is good because you want diversity, especially in the Sith. You want your bad guys or your evil characters to have depth to them. And I think that's what he's appealing to. Now, we have these two wonderful characters in the middle and the left here. Now we have Rey. And if we were to say anything positive about her, we'd say, yes, she's very powerful. She's very high-strung. She's very straightforward, honest. She's all these things. But we don't know where she comes from. We don't know why she's doing what she's doing until the third movie.
Well, she's not relatable in any capacity. She's not complex. She's not... The only character trait is that she's powerful and she's too trusting.
And
she's not mysterious. She's not morally ambiguous. She not relatable.
We look to her as a plot and we see that all she wants is to fit in. She wants to have a family. She wants to know where she's coming from. And then we find out that that doesn't matter because her family was nothing. And then she sort of just goes along with the flow of the rest of the other plots from other characters, like stopping the bad guys. And that's Rey. That's it. She's just the protagonist. There's nothing else to her, as we saw in episode 7 and 8. So when episode 9 comes by, we're like, oh, she's a granddaughter of this Sith dude. And you're like, okay. And it has no value. It has no meaning. It's just, that's just a thing J.J. Abrams did because there's no other reason, which is sad. We need to have more reasoning. And like, if you find out you are the daughter or granddaughter of the most evil character in history, Like you're the granddaughter or great-great-granddaughter of like Hitler.
It doesn't impact her much, does it?
No.
She just kind of, well, it's off, hardly mentioned.
It's just no big deal. No one cares.
It's an explanation. It's the only reason why it's there is to say why she's so powerful.
Pretty
And
much.
even then, it still doesn't work because I'm sure Palpatine wasn't powerful off the bat. He probably had a lot of training.
And the whole scene where I guess you can call it foreshadowing is when she shoots out force lightning from her hand, which is a Sith power. You're like, okay.
I don't genetic though. I think it's a specific thing that Sith learn to do.
Yes.
Like a Jedi mind trick. A Jedi learns how to do a mind trick. Like a Sith learns lightning.
Yes.
It's not something you can just do.
So whenever she starts trying really hard, other things start happening. Like when she was breathing one time, when Luke told her to chill out and just breathe, and she started sensing the dark side because her amazing force powers were stretching out into the world, and she sensed the big butthole that was the Sith cave, and she got a little emotional, and then she got excited, and then some water fell down in her mind, and then she physically fell down, and then she broke the ground beneath her. And wow, what a great Sith power of breathing and getting confused and excited and breaking it just wow. Rey, you're amazing. What's going on? Don't know. I don't know what's going on.
I think that thing is about sequels is that it's so plain and uncomplicated that the sequels, anyone just projects anything onto it and they think it's like the most genius thing ever, which is why we get people who defend the sequels, because they projected some kind of theme or they projected some kind of intelligent, masterful thing. It's in a way it is like the modern art of like film, because you can just project anything onto it and it means anything, and that because you projected it onto it, it's the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah, Rey's a gem. And
Also, hello there, Dev.
hey there, Dev.
Hello.
Hey,
I made it.
how's your new box, man? Everything working out for you?
It's still updating, actually, so I had to do it with the other computer.
Wow.
Apparently, I missed a lot of updates with the other computer, but well, it's brand new, so
Yeah,
it's to be expected.
that will take
So,
you a good few days to download and
So,
reboot.
should we expect you to overheat and shut down?
Probably at least a few times, yeah.
Okay, that's normal.
But,
Let's keep going.
But what have I missed so far? I know we're covering what's it, Lily Orchard?
So, have you ever played Star Wars: The Republic?
Yes, for a little bit, I think.
The MMO or the original
The MMO,
Okay,
both actually.
He's compared that. He said the three best characters in all of Star Wars are Kreia, Lana Beniko from the Star Wars: The Republic, and Rey.
Well, Rey doesn't make any sense. Rey's not even a character, so that's wrong.
I would also like while I do like Lana, I like all, or like in the entirety of the Old Republic MMO, a lot of the characters are just very flat. Like some of them can be as flat as in terms of there's no kind of development or much of a development, and there's very little depth to them. It's either they're charismatic or they're downright boring.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be clear, she is a side character, just like Kreia, but Kreia has much more involved in the main plot than an optional.
You can still have side characters which have a lot of depth and have a lot of intrigue. And like Garak is only in 37 episodes of Deep Space Nine, but yet he's probably one of the best characters in there.
Right. And Rey is a protagonist, but the amount of depth she has is minimal.
It's not even a puddle at that point.
Yeah. So anyway, I got a super chat from Mr. Darth Marok again. He has a lot to say today. Apparently, the Rise of Skywalker book says Palp's body was a clone. Which body? The one that got blown up, or the one we see on screen?
Why was it autism? And why did he have his fingers, and why was he blind?
Yeah. What was the point?
Damage.
That was maybe it was a botched clone.
But then why wouldn't he just do another clone that was fine?
Well, why?
I don't know.
Why
This whole thing is absurd. So I have no idea.
I mean,
what is going on.
The Kaminoans didn't have any problem cloning people.
It doesn't even count anyway because they didn't hint at that. They didn't say anything about him being a clone.
Okay,
as far as we know, is he's a regular. He's just regular Palpatine
Why
who somehow survived.
clone himself and
It's by getting
then
blown up
get
twice.
the clone to kill him, and then he can go into his clone. Says, you just kill me, stab me with this knife, and I'll go into you.
And then she kills him, and that's the end of it. Apparently, it didn't work or
No,
something.
It's all a mess.
Some Sith ritual he didn't figure out the steps because he never did it before. And it's like, oops, I forgot. Step 24 where I feel the killing blow, and then I think and I transfer my brain into Rey, or I don't know, whatever.
You see the weakness of the transfer is like you have to make sure there's no electrical devices nearby, otherwise it messes. It's like a plane flight. You can't have you can't have devices. No
That would
signals.
have been an interesting ending if Rey's is standing out there near the Lars farm, and she says, "My name is Rey Skywalker," and we see in her eyes that it's not Rey anymore; it's Palpatine. And then we end the trilogy with Palpatine's evil laugh.
I would have liked to see that.
Oh, I would have dug that. That would have been a brilliant ending.
Then end, and then
I
the
mean,
next
it
trilogy
wouldn't be a
could the
good
bad guy.
film. It wouldn't be a good film, but it would have been like, oh fuck me, that would have been great.
Cliffhanger. That would have been a nice little ooh. Everything was good until her eyes lit up like a Sith. You're like, what does that mean?
Then again, you've got unlimited power and unlimited power. I don't think anyone
2
would be able
times
to
the
defeat.
unlimited power, double the unlimited power.
You see, that should have been the line that Palpatine
Twice
should
the
have
pride,
said.
double the power.
They gave him so many opportunities to say unlimited power and didn't say that line once, and it was
Well,
a
they
huge
went with-
waste.
They went with the line. What was it? I mean, it's like the dark side is the pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
Unlimited power.
Like he should have died saying, "Oh no, I need to say it, unlimited." Ah, fuck it.
Yeah, that would have been great when he's frying his own brain. He's screaming unlimited power. He loves it so much he's killing himself. He doesn't care. He's like,
And the first time he says unlimited powers in the Clone Wars, the Clone Wars trilogy, and he says it in delight. He's like, yeah, I have unlimited power now. And in the sequel trilogy, oh no, I have unlimited power. I can't stop. I'm frying myself to death.
It's so unlimited, he just can't stop it.
That would make sense. That would do it. He loves it. He loves the power. And once he starts, he can't stop.
Not even Palpatine can contain the power
It's
of
like
unlimited
pissing.
power.
It's very difficult to stop midstream.
Very similar to Ghostbusters. Yeah, once you cross streams, you're dead. Yeah. I don't know. All right, let's see his explanation why Rey is such a great character.
Ever brought into the Force 2, she's in the main series, which means there's the constant threat of Darth Maul syndrome hanging over her fucking head for the next decade.
They did it to Ahsoka, they'll do it to you.
What I love about
What?
What was wrong with Ahsoka?
I honestly don't know. So Darth Maul syndrome.
What is Darth Maul syndrome exactly?
I can either infer that is killing someone off early, but I don't see how that would apply to Rey. It's obviously
Having a nervous habit of igniting your lightsaber for no reason.
Have a
That's what I
cameo
would
where she pops in and says, I am Rey Skywalker, ignite golden
Coming back
lightsaber.
from the dead.
Yeah, for no reason, and then put it up.
Either coming back from the dead or being killed off in the first movie. That's the only two things I can think of. Anyone else in the comments, be welcome to tell us what Darth Maul syndrome is.
Yeah.
Also, I don't see how it would apply to Ahsoka.
Unless he means because Darth Maul came back from the dead and Ahsoka's
And
back.
Ahsoka was, the time travel stuff.
Oh, that could work because Rey was killed and she came back from the dead. So technically, they all came back from the dead in some capacity.
Also, so this guy is prevalent of Ahsoka, but yet he puts Rey above her. What the fuck?
I don't know.
about Rey is that she's unlike most other protagonists. She's not the chosen one, there isn't a big mystery behind her origins, there wasn't some special...
No, she's just the Force dyad.
Okay, so she's not the chosen one, but she's essentially the chosen god. There is a mystery about her. Everything you just said was wrong so far. So I don't know.
In a sense, there is the chosen one aspect. Not while she is not the chosen one, there is the bullshit Force dyad.
Well,
which is like that is just
when you have every
unlimited power.
dead Jedi say at the end of the movie, "You have done what none of us could have done." It's like, oh, okay, that's laying it a bit thick, I think. Like, thanks, stories from yesteryear. We all sucked. This chick with godlike powers can just do it all. Well, no shit, she can do anything. There's no need. There's no need for us to do anything. We'll just wait until someone's born who's a god. It's like, oh yeah,
That's what Ray
There's
should have
another
said.
thing. Like-
Palpatine should have said unlimited power, and then Ray should have said, "No, this is unlimited power." And she fried Palpatine.
She should have said, you know what I learned once I talked to Jedi? Spinning works. So she's just rotating her lightsaber.
Anakin just goes, hey Ray, spinning's a good trick. I was like, oh yeah. She does like the Palpatine move, and she screams and spins around and stuff.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
There is a line from Anakin, if I remember correctly, where he says, bring balance to the Force like I. But Anakin didn't bring balance to the Force because he didn't kill Palpatine.
I would have loved to have seen her done that spinning.
Actually, no, wait. He did bring balance to the Force, but he brought balance to the Force in Mortis, and then it was implied that he would bring balance to the Force again, and then as the viewer, you're like, okay, that's when he kills Palpatine, but he no longer kills Palpatine, so he didn't bring balance to the Force like he was, it's bullshit.
Let's not even think along the lines of George Lucas through J.J. Abrams. I don't think that's a good idea. I think you'll just hurt yourself.
Yeah, you got Lucas Vision, and then you're trying to get it through like two other visions of like Ryan and JJ.
Oh God, don't even try, sir. You're gonna hurt yourself right now.
I think it's already
The link to the previous characters. She's just a Force-sensitive person who happened to get caught up in the war by circumstance. Of course,
she is not a Force-sensitive person. She is a Force god.
You see, she's the chosen one,
yeah.
and you better deal with it.
Whatever she says goes. I think she can even dictate the laws of the Force now, especially with the third movie. She can say, "Oh, I can just heal people now." How do I learn this? Because I just can do it. We didn't go through, something like that is so different from the rest of the Force powers that we've seen in the movies. You'd think there would be a scene when Leia was training her where they have that Yoda Luke dynamic where Yoda explains how the Force works to Luke, how the nature of the Force, and then Luke has some of an enlightenment and he realizes what's going on. And then Rey should have had some sort of epiphany or enlightenment with Leia, and that's how she learned Force heal. But no, she just gets it, like everything else. She just kind of gets granted it because she puts her experience points into learning that technique or something.
Another thing is in Legends, Force healing and in canon, Force Echo are both described as very rare abilities for a Force user to have. But yet she can sense an object's past by picking it up, which was further explained in the Jedi Fallen Order game. And she also has the Force ability to heal people, which in Legends was described as incredibly rare, and something you had to put lots of hard training into. So she somehow has two rare abilities.
Well, she is all the Jedi.
Oh, that's so stupid.
If that was built up, like she starts hearing whispers, and there's like
the thing is, there are thousands of years of Jedi, thousands upon thousands. Like that would be insane to have the power of every single one of them, not just the ones from Order 66. Even though that'd be incredible power, the ones from the rest of eternity.
And if you think about the idea of having all these voices in your head, think of the Dune trilogy or the Dune series, Frank Hebert's, where there was a person who had another voice in their head. And from one voice, that person went insane. Imagine having multiple voices, multiple past lives in your head telling you what to do. You would go crazy. You would lose your mind. Okay? Now, if they worked with that as a premise, like she's getting these voices and she's losing her mind, she's going crazy, but through that she's getting power, and then it's revealed at the end, no, we're doing this to help you because we know it's coming, that you are all the Jedi, we're using our godlike post-death powers to help you, then you'd be like, oh, you are all the Jedi. That makes sense. Okay. In a small capacity.
Of course, it wasn't built up because she just gets all the talents and techniques because she just handed everything else.
Yeah,
that's what they built up. Her being handed everything is the only thing they built up in this whole trilogy.
Yeah, the only thing I could point to which made some degree of foreshadowing was when she accidentally blew up that ship with force lightning, and we're like, "Where did that come from?" Oh,
just handed force lightning.
Yeah.
You can do force lightning now because it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to, oh, you were along this lines, your emotions got the better of you. This is what happens. Whereas if you had Leia training her and teaching her the softer side of the Force, I don't know, maybe a Jedi Templar or whatever I can't remember the 3 classes in the Old Republic, but the one that deals with meditation and Force skills. Sentinel, right? So they would be like healing and whatever that skill set would be. That would make sense. It would be like, oh, okay, great. But instead, she could just do things because the plot demands it, and we don't have time to explain anything for some reason. So,
I'm just going to say that I don't think that someone being all of the Jedi is ever going to work. I think it's just such a dumb idea.
It's a horrible idea.
And someone being, I am all the...
Yeah.
For Palpatine, at least, because, like he just says, I'm all of the Sith. You can kind of infer that as in, because there's only be the rule of 2, like every Sith have, passed on their teachings and it all came down to him. But the idea of the Jedi is that they have lots of people because they don't have the rule of 2. So it's the only way we can take that she is all of the Jedi is that all of the powers are literally in her.
Right. Which also goes against the face of the concept of having holocrons or relics that they pass this information and they store it in these diaries that you have to be a skilled Force user to open up.
Oh, sorry. It is consular. It's not Sentinel.
Oh.
Sentinel and Guardian are versions, I think, subclasses of the consular.
Right. Okay. But the idea that we have these relics that people are very sought out for, they're always trying to find the ancient Sith empires that had these old Sith that mastered some secret technique. But now, nope. Palpatine is all the Sith, just because he said so. And Rey is all the Jedi because Luke and everyone else
says so.
said so. Yeah, she said so, essentially. Which is pretty weak sauce as far as climaxes go. It's like, I'm really strong. Well, I can do this. Well, I can do that. Like,
Oh, but can you pull 2 lightsabers out to deflect your lightning? Oh, I didn't think so. And
it's almost like they put this all together at the last minute or something.
Huh, yeah.
It's almost like this thing has been rewritten and refilmed like so many fucking times.
Of course, people don't fucking like that because for some reason everyone thought they were going to do the stupid I am your father thing again because... Why? Real talk. Why was it just...
No, I wasn't expecting that at all.
I'm your grandpa.
Yeah.
I didn't do I'm your father, I'm your grandpa.
Oh.
I am your grandfather.
I didn't even think of that comparison. I was like, oh, this is a dumb idea. And then you're like, oh, well, they sort of did that.
But the thing is that I am your father reveal is great. You just don't think of it. You don't compare it to the I'm your grandpa.
Yeah, wrong movie.
You just don't.
No, I am your brother would have been really interesting.
Whoa.
Like Rey, I am your brother. It's like, even when we kid. I suppose that'd be very similar to do you mean Kylo or Palpatine?
Oh dear.
If Palpatine was Rey's brother somehow, now that would be interesting because I wouldn't see that coming. He's really old and she's not.
I definitely wouldn't. Like she was stored in ice or something. Like she was in hypersleep.
If everyone was a clone, I think we'd have a little bit. At least there'd be a science fiction angle, like this. Everyone is like a clone of something else. That's why we could make Rey so powerful. Just being a granddaughter of a Sith doesn't explain anything. So,
and she could have been like if you've seen Dragon Ball Z, she could have been like a cell-like experiment where Palpatine ran some sort of operation where he took DNA from all the Jedi that he's ever encountered and then put all that DNA together, mixed it up in a bowl, and then made Rey out of that. Then that would have been, she would have been part of every Jedi.
Right.
But we didn't get any of that. She's just granted all the powers.
That would have
been Cartman from South Park.
She's just the grandchild of one of the most powerful people.
Her power is to have all the powers.
that would have been a major theme of the story, genetics and where you come from, because that was a major mystery of the last two
Do you know
movies.
what I want to see now? I want to see Palpatine like go to a young Rey. It's like, here Rey, have some money. Don't spend it all on sweets. Go run in traffic.
Oh. I still don't understand what the hell was going on in that movie. And I'm still going through our movie night experience trying to figure out what's a joke and what the hell is... Because half the time I'm lost. I'm like, what is this? What's going on? Everyone's trying to explain it to me and they don't even know. Like, don't ask questions. Stop asking questions.
The movie explains nothing. Things just kind of happen.
Okay, let's get back to this gentleman or lady's explanation for why Rey is such an awesome character.
Assume they do that shit again is because protagonist with some stupid backstory twist was in both Empire Strikes Back and Knights of the Old Republic, because it wasn't in most other Star Wars properties. Are Star Wars fans just incapable of thinking outside deep lore nonsense? Dumb question, I know. Hey,
okay, there's nothing wrong with having twists in a character's reveal. There's nothing wrong with it. It's how it's
a
done.
lot of people had some quite creative theories about, like, some of them were really shit, even about Palpatine. Someone had like an idea that Palpatine was Mace Windu, which is a shit idea. But I mean, the skin color for one, maybe that was quite a giveaway. But
why are the fans always demonized whenever they care about the lore of the franchise that they care about?
I
Every
think
single
fans
time.
created some quite creative reasons and explanation. Hell, my own dad came up with the idea that she was the next incarnation of the daughter from Mortis, who was quite literally the embodiment of the Force. In a way, Rey is quite literally the embodiment of the Force.
Yeah.
She's just that powerful.
That's really pushing it, though.
Yeah, I didn't think they were going to do that at all, because if you say the word Mortis to J.J. Abrams, he's probably like, what is it? Some kind of... What, you mean mortar? Some kind of bricklaying thing?
Yeah.
Hey, so this script was written before Rise of Skywalker came out, and I was not prepared for them to reveal that Rey was actually Palpatine's granddaughter, because for all the old garbage they recycle from the original trilogy and Knights of the Old Republic, I still foolishly believe there was some vestige of creativity in Lucasfilm's desiccated corpse. So that kind of renders all my opinions about Rey being a refreshing character rather moot, because they just did the same thing they did with everyone else, and then ended the story with her going on to train a bunch of new Jedi, which means next trilogy, Rey will be the washed-out aging hippie having to contend with the return of Darth Maul, again, and Ahsoka, and Revan, and then Anakin will hit her in the face with a stick. They also decided to make it so that Rey and Kylo Ren are literal soulmates. And out of all the dumb, stupid ideas that Disney could have possibly done, making Reylo canon was probably the dumbest of them all. Like, dude, that shit's just fucking gross. If there's one thing Disney managed to do, it was to achieve the title of most cursed and unhealthy attempt at romance in a series that includes a woman being trapped and threatened, quasi-incestuous makeouts, and one spouse strangling another.
Trapped and threatened.
When did...
Yeah, because everyone knows that scene where Han Solo put a gun to Leia's head and then force kissed her. That was the scene.
What a memorable scene that was. Wow, I couldn't even remember it was so memorable. What is this person's problem with characters having relationships that are a little awkward?
Heterosexuality, just like everywhere else in modern media, I guess is demonized and unhealthy and evil.
I think that maybe he likes lesbians. I think if it's not a lesbian, then he probably considers it to be a terrible romance.
Well, let's just say that episode 3 with Anakin going nuts was a little off character. Just a little. I'm doing this all for my wife and kids. But,
I'm just going to say that the romance between Padme and Anakin in the Clone Wars is, oh my god, it's so much better than the fucking prequels. Because for a start, 1, it's not abusive. 2, Anakin's not fucking creepy. 3, they actually feel like they have some kind of connection and romance. And they actually probably... I will go far enough to say they completely changed Padme and Anakin just because in the prequels they're just so unlikable.
Yeah, there's a Lucas dialogue we're working with there. So what are you gonna do? He's like, thanks, George. That's great. They're really in love. I totally buy it. Yep, sure. Oh, look, he's strangling her the next movie. Fantastic. Thanks, George.
I mean, at that point, he's obviously gone to the dark side, and obviously that's probably quite a firm split a breakup. So maybe it's no longer spousal abuse.
I think it's running on the Marvel rule, where if it's a man going after a woman, it's assault and rape. It has to be the woman who goes after the man. That's the only way it's acceptable. I think that's the only way a heterosexual relationship, anyway, is acceptable. If it's a man going after a woman, that can't happen, because that's 100% time going to be rape. It's always rape.
I'm assuming you mean the comics.
Yeah, the comics. That seems to be the pattern in woke Marvel, because that seems to echo the mentality of these NPC weirdos.
Honestly, I've ended up seeing Batgirl just beating up a bunch of random rednecks for no fucking reason, so I could believe that they go with that.
Hollywood, what are you gonna do next? Let's find out.
Also, the film is getting accolades for having the first gay kiss in the franchise, an accolade it doesn't deserve because the Old Republic beat them to it several years ago.
Oh, the Old Republic's so fast, so early, so woke, so
progressive.
Wow.
It's from like when did the Old Republic come out?
2006 or 7?
It's been a while. It's been a while. Nobody doesn't count because it's not the movie. Only the movies count. Okay.
Also, let me look at the Old Republic, because I don't think the Old Republic was that progressive for its time.
Yeah. We were talking about a space opera, so anything goes. It doesn't really matter.
Okay, it's 2008 that it came out.
Yeah. Oh, just got a super chat from Mr. Nathan Brake. Thank you, sir. Same with Ahsoka and Anakin had good chemistry. People shipped that too.
No. That is fucking disgusting. Like, it's the mentor and like student relationship.
Yeah,
of
that's
course
fine.
it's going to be close.
It's fine if they have a relationship.
But no, fuck's sake. Not in the sexual way.
No, I'm not saying that. They obviously Padawan and
They ship it.
and Master.
If it's any two characters that people like, it's going to be shipped. It doesn't matter.
Oh, really?
Doesn't matter about anything. They're going to be shipped. There's going to be shipped with every character.
Boom.
Any sort of relationship. Yep. It's going to be.
That's
That's how shippers operate.
Oh, okay.
The way I see like Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan is that I guess it can also be inferred by what Obi-Wan says, like, "You're my brother, Anakin." I always imagine like Obi-Wan being the big brother and Ahsoka's the little sister, and then Anakin's the brother in between them both. And because honestly, the way they act around each other, that is what I get the most from. At least I see the most from
in a
their
shipper's
relationships.
mind.
Well,
The moment Obi-Wan said that instantly tells shippers that they're going to be in love with each other.
These are
There are people
a bunch of celibate warrior monks trying to have chilled out scenarios or dialogue in times of stress. It's like, yeah, they're going to have a bond of some sort. That makes sense. But there's nothing to imply this is a romantic liaison or implied future romantic liaison. There's nothing for that. So,
But anyway, it's not.
You've seen the shippers around Avatar: The Last Airbender. I mean, they're putting like Sokka and Zuko together. They're putting everyone together.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that shippers are terrible, and the Old Republic is not progressive. It is nowhere near. It's at least for its time anyway. Probably what had like gay people before.
yeah, so this is essentially just a fan saying, well, TNG did before DS9 with the same lesbian kiss or whatever. It's like, who cares? No one cares. Not a big deal.
But obviously, it matters to people who have a very strong political agenda.
It matters to people who aren't fans. That's why you read the headline of the DS9 back in 2000.
I just remembered. Deep Space Nine, the creator and the actor of Garak, also the showrunner, said that Garak was gay and wanted to fuck Bashir.
What?
The actor, he played him as omnisexual at first.
Yeah, the thing is, I always took Garak. I think
pansexual.
Had to his, well, I wouldn't say pansexual, but Garak to me always kind of had the idea.
It was one of those.
Garak, what spoke to me about Garak with his sexuality is that he didn't really care about sex. Like, he wasn't motivated by sex at all. That it wasn't part of his motivation.
On that note, speaking of shipping, I think I read somewhere that 80 to 90% of DS9 fan fiction is Garak and Bashir.
Sorry, I just
that was almost canon.
If you know anything about the Cardassians, they are very strong on family, like big on family. So
Oh yeah, they have like that fascist mentality with
there's
big
very
families and stuff.
little. I can't think of any reference where there's any sort of homosexuality or anything related to non-male female relations. So
Oh, if
Anyway,
you,
my attitude towards this sexuality when it comes to well, I mean things like lesbians and gays, I don't honestly don't care. I just want a character that is well written.
Right.
And these two characters that kiss in Rise of Skywalker, they don't matter. They're not characters. They're just
I think one of those characters was in a scene for about 2 seconds to deliver one line. That's it.
therefore I honestly don't give two shits about either of them.
okay.
Also, like omnisexual slash pansexual Garrick was the Garrick with the ugly green striped shirt. After that, they kind of changed him to the Garrick you really know, like the different Garrick,
Just plain simple.
plain
Garrick.
simple Garrick.
There you go.
Like, this is legit just a bald-faced fucking lie. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled grumbling. This is part of why all that Rey is a Mary Sue garbage has always been so blisteringly stupid, because not only is Mary Sue a nebulous concept that can always be adjusted to fit an individual's...
Okay.
It's not
concept.
stupid though. It's right on point.
Lit. Okay. Lit Dev, tell me what a Mary Sue is.
It's basically Mary Sue is basically a character which the plot kind of breaks.
Well,
and
no.
bends to.
In simplest term, what is a Mary Sue?
I mean, a Mary Sue is just the character with the plot that the plot bends to. That's it.
Okay, I'll say an overpowered character that has no flaws. But generally, when someone says Mary Sue, they are always meaning, or at least Gary Stu, Mary Sue, any kind of Sue. They're saying that a character is somehow overpowered to the story, and that the story bends around them, and that is not nebulous whatsoever.
I mean, they tend to be overpowered, but only within the context of the story itself. So, if you're in a world of like Superman, like if you're in a superhero universe, obviously there's lots of powerful people walking around. But Mary Sue in that universe would be absurdly powerful, even within the context of that story's universe.
Right, and this is not some subjective opinion. Yes, there's so many definitions because everyone writes them differently and they miss steps or they don't know it. But all you got to do is start observing Rey and says, okay, what happens to Rey? She can speak all these languages. How? We don't know. What can she do? Force powers. How? We don't know. Oh, look, she comes across a problem. How did she solve it? Well, she just did. How did she learn how to fire a gun? She just did. How did she learn?
A character who's just awesome. She's just awesome.
Yeah,
that's
everything that happens to her,
who she is.
She solves a problem with minimal effort to the point where it becomes a joke.
She's the DM's girlfriend.
Yes, in no way is the term Mary Sue nebulous.
No,
I mean,
no.
it can be used in the wrong context.
I would say it's nebulous because there's so much and it's hard to define. But once you start observing a Mary Sue, and we had that big list that Southpaw listed.
The general idea of it is still there. You hear Mary Sue, you hear, you know what it means. Like, you mean characters like Rey instantly.
Oh yeah, but the thing is, because the actual definition is hard to pin down succinctly, that's why there's sub definitions, there's subtypes of Mary Sues. That's what the argument from this YouTuber is saying, is that because it's so difficult, I'm not even going to consider it. It's not even it's so complex.
I mean, there are a lot of different subtypes of Mary Sues, but they're all essentially the same.
Right.
They are overpowered, or they are too good, and within the context of the world that they're living in, but in different ways. So, like your typical God mode Sue, which is Rey to a T, they're just good at everything, no matter what it is. Then you have my favorite is Sons, or the Mary Sue, which is basically just a person who is unbeatable. They're pretty much omniscient. So they commit strategies. They conduct strategies, even though that are so complex that there's no way they could have planned for all of these things. Kind of like a Xanatos. But
we're unlucky. EFAP's on. It'll lose like half the audience.
We gotta stop timing it with you. I gotta talk to Mauler more.
Talk to Mauler. It's like, hey Mauler, can you tell us when you're not going to be streaming? You steal half the audience.
So yeah,
but Mary Sue's can have flaws too. It's just that usually a Mary Sue-ish flaw is they're not really flaws. They're
so
flaws
good that it's a flaw.
They're too pretty are the too dedicated or they're too loving, or on the other hand, it's flaws that don't really matter, but they're like they're detrimental flaws, but they don't really matter. So like they're bad at cooking, but cooking never comes up. Kind of is told that they're bad at it, or they're really bad at singing. Or the best one though, the number one is that they're clumsy, but never really hinders them as a character.
Right. They trip over their own feet and defeat the enemy anyway. It's like, oh, great.
Yeah, they can trip onto like a branch and then accidentally kill all the bad guys.
Yeah.
That's a Mary Sue.
I'm just watching the number of people watching slowly tick down. It's like
That's expected.
Bye-bye.
But let's see what this person has to say why Rey is so awesome, because she's not a Mary Sue, because Mary Sue is too complicated a term to define. So
personal dislikes in any given moment, but Rey is a force-sensitive person. They're always on a certain level of overpowered to begin with. Luke had fucking perfect aim, Anakin had the reflexes of...
No, wrong, absolutely incorrect.
Yeah, people with the Force were not overpowered.
They're not overpowered. They're powered enough.
Order 66, where clones killed tons of Jedi.
yeah, and the Clone Wars is a bit different, but
They're not overpowered at all though, because Jedi are they're not unusual. I mean, they are rare, but they're not unusual within the context of the universe. The Jedi exist and it's kind of accepted. They have their own organization. Overpowered would be what Rey is, prodigious even for a prodigy within a rare subset of people. So it's already rare that you're a Jedi. It's already rare that you're really force sensitive, that you could become a Jedi, and then to become a prodigy as a Jedi, and then to become what Rey is, which is a prodigy of a Jedi.
a god. Fucking Revan was the single closest thing to a Mary Sue any fictional character will ever get.
What?
Yeah, that's pretty sad.
No.
Revan,
you know what Revan had? Revan had training.
A lot of training.
A lot of training. Rey
he had
nothing.
training twice, in fact. Because he was originally trained as a Jedi, and then he was trained again after his mind was wiped.
And we see his loss of memory. And we see that you progress as this character who relearns everything. Very similar to the Nameless one in Planescape Torment. Everything just sort of makes sense. And you're like, how is this possible? How does this... And that's the beautiful thing about the twist. Because none of this is making sense. And all of a sudden, oh, that's why you're so good. You're this guy everyone was talking about. You're this amazing... Yeah.
They even said it was unusual. I think some of your companions, was it Karth? It's been a while since I played the game, but I think he even says, "Wow, you know a lot of languages. It's really strange that you can do all this stuff, and you took charge and everything." And he's like, he points it out that is unusual that your character is such a lowly person, because you start off as maybe a soldier or something that just got hired on as a hired hand, but somehow you have all these techniques and skills and knowledge on different various languages, and he points it out as unusual that you would know all these things, and instead of saying this, brushing it off, it's setting up the eventual reveal for later on.
Yeah,
that you know all these things because you were this Dark Lord Revan. And
the second game is pretty much Chris Avellone looking at the first game saying, I love this so much, I'm going to write an homage to what they did to Revan, give a subordinate, a general of Revan, and tell her story and how she helped out Revan with all the amazing stuff he did, which is not even necessary. He could have told a totally different story about the same universe, but he went along that storyline because it was so good and explained why she did the things she did and what happened at Malachor and all the people that Revan and her impacted. So we have all this backstory explaining.
I've never ever heard anyone call Revan a Mary fucking Sue.
And it's all of this was protect Rey. None of this was ever contention.
From Mary Sue that you can get.
Luke was a good character.
He's fucking corruptible and everything.
Yeah. Luke was considered a good character for decades. Luke Skywalker was considered a good character, a good hero of the Star Wars franchise. Revan was considered a great character for the Star Wars franchise. All of these characters were considered great and well written until Rey came out and was a complete Mary Sue. And then suddenly the old heroes, they're all terrible and bad. Like the message of The Last Jedi said that they were.
Well,
they're all terrible and bad.
The good thing about Revan is he did the dirty stuff the Jedi didn't want to do, and the Jedi excommunicated him. So already on the scale of being overpowered, he earned his power. He trained with multiple teachers, multiple disciplines. He went through all the battles. He's disliked by the Jedi. He's disliked by some of the Sith, and then he gains their abilities, and some of the Sith join up with him. Disliked by the Mandalorians, then loved by the Mandalorians. Like they're all just.
And then
Yeah.
he's corrupted to the dark side,
Right.
and then he fails and he gets captured by the Jedi. He gets his mind, and then he's trained again.
Revan had a whole life that he lived before the game even started.
Right. So Mary Sue, yeah, he's on the scale, maybe 1 or 2 points, but other than that, nope, normal character.
I'm keen to think that they don't think that they only think Rey is a good character because they just hate men. I think that's the case here.
But Revan can also be a woman.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
They never talk about because the canon for the exile is a woman, right? They never talk about the exile.
I guess that means if you pick Revan to be a woman,
Yeah.
I guess this Lily Orchard person he just hates women.
Yeah.
He just hates women, I guess, because they called Rey and Mary Sue. I mean, they called Revan and Mary Sue.
Legend standards, at least by Old Republic, and I think maybe the novel, Revan was considered to be a man, and the exile was considered to be a woman.
Yes.
But you can be either.
Yeah, you can be either in the game.
Yet, because not only is he powerful, he's described as a conduit of the Force, and other characters, including the ever-cynical Kreia, speak about him in reverent tones about how he's really just so cool, you guys. But people have a shit fit because,
Yeah, he's an amazing character, and that's the beauty.
Yeah, he earned it. He's like a Greek hero.
The beauty of Kreia is basically worshipping Revan because Revan did the thing no one else could, that she was trying to do herself, which was trying to understand the Force itself, and Revan was this master of it. That she called.
Yeah, the big difference here is that people worship Rey for no reason at all. They just meet her and they just suddenly want to worship her and love her. Revan went through a whole life and forged his own legend, and that's why people worship him and love him. Not because they just laid eyes on him, but
And he's
because
a great character.
they acknowledge his achievements and his charisma and his abilities that he's earned, that he's trained for, and that he's and the legacy he forged by his own hands over a course of a lifetime.
And let's not forget the actual storytelling element of even the first game of subverting what the Force is with characters like Jolie Bindo and then Kreia in the second game, that it's okay to learn dark side powers and not be corrupted and still be a force for good until, of course, later on he becomes corrupted and joins the Sith and tries to control that. So that's the beauty of the character. He sacrifices himself to do whatever needs to be done to save people because the Mandalorians and their war are trying to just dominate the galaxy or whatever they were doing. So we like this character because of these virtues and because of sense of sacrifice. So with Rey, she doesn't know who she is, and she's running around trying to figure that out, and we get nothing from that, and she just goes along with the rest of other characters' plots. And that's it. That's Rey. There's nothing else about her that we can pinpoint and say, she sacrificed this. This is what makes her a hero. This is what makes her good, because she's always been this way. It's like there's no challenge for her to go up for. There's no achievement. She's already unlocked all the powers, and she just has to flip the switch to turn them on.
Also, I just want to point to that this, I guess I'll have to say, lady says that the best 3 characters in all of Star Wars are all. It's like it doesn't even say what kind of metric she's using. She just says it. So you got like very.
She's just awesome then.
So again, we've got Kreia, which Kreia I'll give her credit for. She can have. But then when it comes to Lana, I think of so many characters that are better than Lana because she doesn't have. Well, anyway, as far as I can remember, Lana has almost no development, and she's basically, other than being a love interest, she's not really that interesting either. And then, so characters which are better than her, Rex. I'll even take Dogma from the Clone Wars, who was a clone who so he was in a way he was kind of like a younger version of Rex. He believed that following orders is just what made a good soldier. You just do what everyone says, and then he ends up defending Krell after Krell turns on the Jedi, turns on the clones, and he ends up learning that he was just being used, and he has more development than fucking Rey.
Well, I mean, as long as you have at least a modicum of development, you have infinitely more development than Rey.
So that's not even
I-
talking about characters.
I think the sand on the planet she's living on has more development than Rey does.
Well, in the books, it's describing her.
Books don't count. Okay, you have to put it in the movie. Books are supposed to be the same, but add supplemental information.
I was going to joke saying that in the books, the sand used to be giant skyscrapers. No, but I wasn't actually.
Well, we learned today. Was it yesterday or today that on the Star Wars Twitter handle that Rey learned to pilot based off a screen in her hut that showed a Y-wing?
Apparently, the tweet said that. Did you know that Rey has a computer display from a Y-wing, and off of that, she learned all the languages and learned how to fly.
A computer display from a Y-wing.
From a Y-wing. So apparently, in those little fighter ships, they have all the information in the known universe in there.
The best I loved was because the computer's programmed in binary or whatever. Thus, binary is the universal language. Therefore, she learned all sorts of other languages.
Again, that's not even in the film though, because it's never stated. It's just something. It's like saying she can drive an 8080 because she lived in a broken 8080.
Yeah, I mean, all
she never
supplemental
actually
stuff
drove
is supposed
the
to be
damn
supplemental.
thing.
I have a screensaver of a soccer ball, therefore I'm a master soccer ball player. What?
You see, I've got a TIE fighter on my wall. That means I can drive a TIE fighter.
Fantastic. Thank you, Twitter. Answer all those questions.
Rey has no lightsaber training and beat Kylo Ren in a fight. Yeah, it's fucking Kylo Ren, the single biggest wiener to ever enter the...
What?
What? Didn't they say that he was supposed to be her opposite? He was supposed to be
powerful,
equally powerful as she was, and he just killed his own father. So his dark side, even if he was a Jedi, even if he was a complete Jedi, and wasn't evil at all, killing his father and feeling all that emotion would bring him more power in the dark side of the Force.
And the idea of the dyad is that they're equally powerful in the light side and the dark side. Even that doesn't make any fucking sense. It's still it's still what's described, at least as far as I'm aware. So, and also he's had training as well from Luke and from Snoke.
Yeah, so he's got the training, he's got the weaponry, he's got the experience, he's got the bloodlust and all the Sith powers. It's like, yeah, he's awesome.
Also, considering he can fucking stop laser beams in midair, that's not how I describe a wiener.
The Ross Geller of Star Wars, the Sith who gets shoved in a locker by the real Sith and gets his lunch credits stolen.
You're enjoying this a little too much.
I so rarely get to menace innocent young Jedi anymore.
Rey beat up the Star Wars equivalent of the Tiki Torch guy, and people act like that's a...
But Kylo Ren's not a Nazi. Quite literally, he's not for any kind of racial or the only kind of supremacy he wants is for him to be powerful. The Nazis didn't just want to be powerful; they want. Oh, fuck's sake!
It is an imperial organization. If you want to go that angle with,
but they're not. And he's gone.
Oh, we lost leadership. He's on his own machine. Oh,
Kylo Ren doesn't hate. So no, you just got a super chat.
Yes, from the Hills. This guy sounds so whiny. Thank you, the Hills. Well,
don't misgender.
It's a she, not a he, but we don't hold that against them. We just do our best with our ears and our brain, as all the rest of us do.
But anyway, it's never established that Kylo Ren is like a human supremacist in any kind of way. He's for he's not for any kind of segregation of people by species or.
No, he's just wants to dominate the galaxy because he's big bad evil guy. That's about as deep as the First Order gets until we get to Episode 9, where everything gets kind of wonky, and we're like, okay, where's the First Order? How many ships are there? And then we have whatever the Palpatine fleet is all about, and things get very confusing in that movie. So hard to figure out what's going on at that point.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to deny the comparison between the First Order and them being Nazi as well, because obviously the comparison is like so fucking obvious with the salutes and especially with the Force Awakens. But I would not say Kylo Ren himself is a Nazi. He's just evil
Right.
for the sake of being evil.
Fucking surprise? I mean, I'm not stupid. I know the cries of Mary Sue just amount to girl does something that advances the plot, and that's what made Gen X Star Wars fans have.
That's not Mary Sue. That's just fuck. This guy hurts my brain.
Well, again, he's saying that Mary Sue is just this thing that's too hard to describe. Therefore, you can make up whatever you want it to
Then
be.
just then he described it as any woman who furthers the plot.
The Hills, you don't have to apologize to me, okay? Don't worry about he or she. I'm just making a joke, okay? I really don't care about calling he or she or he until I talk directly with a person. Then I'll be polite. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm hearing a male. It's a male. That's as far as I take it. You can have the avatar of a genderless brick. It doesn't make a difference to me. I don't care.
We're already considered the internet Nazis. We don't want to.
Yeah.
We don't want to poke them.
Yeah, I don't care what you want to call yourself, but if you're not talking to me directly, I'm not forced to say anything good or bad about you. I'm just using a proper pronoun that I hear
Also,
in my ears.
I was just talking about the video. This lady is implying that we just hate Rey because she's a woman, or we call people Mary Sue simply because they're a woman.
Right. And we don't care.
It's really not that simple. Like, I don't consider Ahsoka Tano to be a Mary Sue. I don't consider, let's see, Ayla Secura, Kriya, the Jedi Exile. I don't know. I've just pull out any kind of female character, and most of the time they're not. At least before 2010, maybe any character before 2010 is most likely is not going to be a Mary Sue.
Right.
Most likely.
Such a fucking conniption. The same people who see Jar Jar and immediately break down in fucking tears. And that's what makes it so difficult to talk about these movies with anything other than tongue baths. The new Star Wars movies are currently the scapegoat of the day for sad internet baby Nazis for having a lady Jedi in it, and also for the black-clad fascist that rants about degenerates being, stopped.
We really don't care. We honestly do not care.
It's very obvious to see where this person's political bias is.
It's
and
funny.
he's obviously strawmanning to
It's
say
funny,
that.
the majority of these people, we know and they're always on the left. They're always left-leaning to extreme left-leaning. Always.
It's just insane because I think both me and Southpaw, I don't know about Smud, I don't know about Lit, you, or Glib, or Evan, but both, if I'm aware, me and Southpaw are like both. I guess if I was forcing to put myself in a place, I would have to choose the left, but I don't associate with politics. And it's just so strange as someone who at least used to be left
these
to be told
conversations,
these kind of things.
These conversations should not involve politics anyway, because we're not talking about politics.
Yeah.
We're talking about media. So why this pops up? It's because this was on their minds and they can't let it go for whatever reason. So we're forced to.
I think the reason why it pops up is because they say, "Oh, you don't like it because it's a woman, or you don't like Finn because he's black, or you don't like X, Y, and Z because you're toxic." It's the same old straw man over and over again.
And I don't want to risk people thinking that's why I don't like the new movies. Despite my distaste for these movies, I absolutely love Rey. She's one of my favorite characters alongside Kreia and Lana Beniko. The new movies introduce a wide variety of new characters and even breathing life into old characters who were previously dull as crap. This is the first time I ever thought Luke, Han, or Leia were interesting, as they all broke out of the mold they'd originally been stuck in and exacerbated.
Okay, so he didn't like the original trilogy, I take it.
What? What the fuck?
Yeah, their characters are so bad. They're so boring. It's like, okay. Well, this is a guy who grew up with the prequels, right? So I grew up with the originals.
Guess,
so
I would probably say that maybe he grew up with Knights of the Old Republic and the Old Republic MMO, considering that two of his favorite characters come from there. And I grew up with Star Wars: The Clone Wars and the Star Wars game, like Battlefront 2 as well, like the good one.
If that's where you're coming from, if you had KOTOR and KOTOR 2 as a base, many characters would seem pretty weak in comparison. I agree. But as a movie, if you just see it as a simple space opera with action adventure scenes of characters trying to topple a huge monstrous empire, they have no idea how to do it, you'd be compelled to watch Luke. I'd be like, wow, what's this everyman going to do? How is he going to destroy this gigantic moon-shaped battle station? How is this going to happen? I don't know. And you're intrigued to find out, and how he has to change along the path. And again, I argue that most of the change occurs in the third movie. So, a big side story happens in the second. I'll buy that. Fine. But it does happen. And the climax does show us what happens at that point. So, yes, it's not as strong as it could be, but Lucas was going for that action-adventure, space opera, big, epic battle fight scene. So that's fine. I'm okay with that.
And also, just the idea of they're not the same characters, therefore they're breaking the mold.
Yeah, it's kind of like saying, I'm bored of these characters. Oh, I wasn't expecting that you do something different. Different does not mean better.
I wasn't expecting that you would change the characters completely so they're not the same characters.
Just because you dislike something and because now they're different doesn't mean they're better or good. Yeah.
But I heard the last part of the video that you just watched, and what I can tell is that this person doesn't really want characters. What they really want is to follow someone who can live out their weirdo revenge fantasy, or a character who's just really, really powerful. Not really a character that's human in any way, the one that has flaws or anything like that, or even has development. But just a character that seems to just be awesome at everything.
Actually, I'd also struggle to say that she grew. Her fandom mainly grew from the KOTOR series, because maybe not KOTOR 1, but maybe KOTOR 2, because she doesn't consider Revan. Like, she calls Revan a Mary Sue or something along those lines.
I think this person said that Revan was closer to Mary Sue than Rey is, which is absolutely absurd. In no way is that true.
Probably grew up with KOTOR and the Old Republic MMO.
I just got a super chat from Tyler Preston. Thank you, sir. Lily reminds me of Jules Chan. I don't know who that is. Both Winnie and Petty. I don't know who Jules Chan is. Does anyone know?
I think he meant Whiny and Petty.
I have no idea I never heard of Jules Chan.
Yeah. There's lots of YouTubers I don't know that I'm sure are very obnoxious. So
whiny and petty. But if, a lot of these people tend to be whiny and petty. I don't know why. Like you hate Rey, therefore all the stuff you like is terrible or something.
I just looked up Jules Chan and
yeah, I could not tell you.
I don't.
It's not a big deal, but again, there's lots of people like this. Like Lava Chan is fantastically whiny and petty. So
they usually tend to be whiny and petty. I don't know. It's a strange pattern.
Yeah.
You hate Rey. You think Rey's a Mary Sue. Well, Luke is more of a Mary Sue, without any evidence, or any sort of substance to that argument. Just because you hate the character that they love, the character that they can look at, so that they can fulfill their revenge fantasy or something, whatever they want, for whatever reason they like Rey, which I can't really fathom at the moment. But because you can't agree with them, that Rey is a quote unquote excellent character, or quote unquote the best character in Star Wars, that all of your stuff therefore is terrible. All the stuff you love is therefore terrible, petty and whiny. These are good descriptors.
I've just been looking at Jules Chan, and his subscriptions are not visible, and his like to dislike is not visible.
Well, it's just like what's her name?
Why the hell is his subscriptions not visible?
Yeah, Lily Orchard, it doesn't have like or dislike enabled either. So
are the comments enabled? That's a pretty good one too.
Comments are enabled, yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, that's usually the pattern. They want to hide all this stuff.
I was talking to Smud in the chat earlier in Discord, and he said something along the lines of, "Oh my god, he or she." Doesn't allow like to dislike. And I was like, does that really surprise you?
It does, because usually someone with big opinions who does all this work in their videos is proud and wants people to like or dislike. That would be my suggestion, is if you put all this, I don't know, months, weeks, days into your videos, and you're just like, you know what, let it speak for itself. I want people to know that. And they don't allow like to dislike. Like, look at me. I get ratioed all the damn time. I don't give a crap. My opinions are
I mean,
different. Yeah, I got.
you can't have people. I mean, you can't have people coming and disagreeing with you. That's ridiculous. You have to just like Mundane
not
Matt
just
said, you just get rid of the dislike button.
Just delete them all.
You're not only just not allowing them to disagree with you, you're not showing that anyone disagrees with you either. You're not showing that what you believe is unpopular.
Yeah, well, again, these are not a big deal for people like myself that's like does this for fun, but obviously they take this very seriously.
A lot of the YouTubers I know get dislikes on streams that haven't even started yet. They schedule a stream and they begin with already like 6 to 10 dislikes. So I mean, it's there because people just don't like you or something. But it's there so people can share their opinion. It's good to have that there for everyone to see.
Just respond to a comment, RW Winter. He says that Revan and the Exile are closer to Mary Sue's by virtue of being blank slates with the for the player character. Their virtues and flaws are up to you. I would disagree with that because Revan has a character before you even play the game.
Well, okay, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I'm not even sure if that's a property of Mary Sue's being blank slates. That's sort of that's a video game trope.
It's also a romance trope. It's the same formula they use for what was that one? Twilight. Twilight. They use that same thing in Twilight, where they call her a pair of pants. The reader can just read it and put themselves easily into the place of the main character.
Okay.
But anyway, while that is, I wouldn't call them blank slates exactly. They're obviously supposed to be. You're supposed to be Rev, but they still, the way they set up the story, you still have to go through training. You still have a history, and you still have flaws, and you're not the best in the world either.
Characters like Revan and the Nameless One are unique because they're remembering everything. So they start off with almost no personality, and then you say, "Oh." You build them up, and with Revan, you can go crazy. You can go evil, you can go nice, you can go neutral with all your responses. You can kill everyone off. You can be very diplomatic. So there's there's all sorts of diversity with your dialogue choices. Same with the Nameless One in Planescape Torment. You could remember being like you're mostly a horrible creature in your past, but you can be nice as you go, or you can just keep being evil, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I would say in the way of KOTOR is that you kind of you're given kind of blanks, but there's still something there. So the blanks are basically like, in I suppose the best way to put it is something like Lego. Like you put the bricks in to build up your character in certain ways, just how they are. But there's still things there which, like Revan's history and the way the story goes. And there is, something that's been programmed into the game to allow you to, go these certain paths.
I just got a chat from Tyler Preston telling me Jules Chan is part of the anti-CG who believes that we are all Nazis. I believe that's Comicsgate?
CG.
Usually when I hear CG, I would go to Comicsgate, yeah.
Okay.
I hear CG, I hear computer generated.
Oh, right, of course.
Comicsgate is the superior CG.
Back in my day, it was called CGI.
LieratureDevil, me and you are going to have some stern words.
All right, let's keep going, guys.
By the series' insistence on retreading their ground. That's all good stuff. But where they tend to bore me is with literally everyone else. Oh look, the villains are another galactic empire. It's another emperor. Oh wait, never mind, it's the old one again. It's another meditation on the way capitalism embeds fascism. Thanks for that ice-cold take on the carnivorous and parasitic nature of monolithic corporations, Disney. Okay, I'm being unfair. Let me explain a little deeper for those not aware. In The Last Jedi, there's a casino city where a bunch of wealthy people hang out called Canto Bight. And when the movie gets there, Rose Tico pretty much looks into the camera and explains that the people there got so wealthy by selling weapons to both the Republic and the First Order.
And did you know war profiteering is bad? Did you know war? So at least this person acknowledges that these parts are also awful elements of these movies.
I hope so. I hope that's what he's saying. He's just listing them so far. I don't know if that's good or bad yet. What is he trying to say? We don't know yet.
Rose turns to the camera and says, Isn't this terrible?
Well, we know that's bad. We know that's a bad way of expressing what's happening in a scene, but
I don't even think the world is that simple as like war profiteering bad, because if you're selling something like weapons that are going to be used for self-defense, then I think this kind of, while dubious, I suppose someone has to sell, I don't know, anti-air turrets to the US, who needs it to stop planes from bombing them.
Well, according to Patrick Willems, anything that has rich people stuff blow up is good. So
As long as you have some sort of message in your movie, it's high art or something.
Yes.
Even though it's horribly executed and as
and it's
as subtle as a raging gorilla.
it's told by a person directly looking at the camera, telling you what the message is.
Here's what you have to think, audience. This is what you're supposed to be feeling right now. Oh, thank you,
Also,
Rostico. Thank you, movie.
When it comes to there's plenty of ways to get rich, not just war profiteering. There's a guy, as I think I mentioned before, there's a guy in China who created a door company and became a billion. There's lots of ways to make money.
Now, this moment was taken as a revolutionary step for the franchise because the characters pretty much go, "There is no ethical consumption under capitalism," and Bread 2 busted a nut over it, but where it tends to lose me is that this isn't...
So that's good. Capitalism bad. That's a good thing in the movie. Just because I don't get it.
Okay, so I think he's about to reference one of the expansions
Yes.
of Star Wars Republic,
Yeah.
and I can't remember the name specifically, but it's about this planet that's falling apart, and this rich hut has a ship that can get them all off, but he doesn't want to. He wants to store all his treasure instead, and you have to come and take it and help everyone get off the planet, essentially.
Right. But
Like all these,
So I guess
these
that is
anti-capitalist people, you know,
Yeah.
all these
in a sense, it is anti-capitalist, but it's not. It's
You see, I don't care what the
not,
message
like,
is of the
terrible.
story. It's how it's done. If this was like capitalism is bad because look at all these people dying and this is all part of the main plot, then great. They expressed a
Well,
fine message. But this is literally a B plot that has nothing to do with what's going on.
and it accomplishes nothing.
It achieves nothing. Rose is like, oh, war is bad. And people making money off war is bad. And animals.
Its only achievement is wasting Del Toro.
Yeah, that's kind of sad.
Dr. Gonzo is wasted in here.
It's such a weak idea. Just because it agrees, they could have said cupcakes are bad. You know what? I hate cupcakes. Thank goodness Star Wars is bringing that to light.
Finally bringing attention to this issue.
It's like when someone in a film or a TV show, like racism is bad. It's like, oh my god, thank God you said that, because
I thought
before you said
racism
that,
was
I was
good.
going to go hang some black people.
Yeah,
Thank you, Star Wars.
what a great step forward for Star Wars to do that. Like, yeah,
I always enjoy how all these militant anti-capitalist people are always the biggest capitalists of all. I remember Star Trek: The Next Generation had some pretty powerful anti-capitalist messages, and their seasons are ludicrously expensive to purchase.
well,
At
I
least
like
they were.
that because in Star Trek, it's like, well, we've done away with wealth, and we don't need
money.
we don't need all these things. It's like, oh, awesome, great. In a perfect world, that'd be great. You know what? We're not in a perfect world yet, so we gotta.
Well, I always take Star Trek as like, it is what the best, like,
Yes.
it's possibly one of the best outcomes that humanity could possibly be. But I don't believe that is the realistic outcome.
If you
I
have-
think it's nice to have an ideal
If
version.
I
of
have free energy for all, then yes, I bet I can make a perfect world. I think that wouldn't be too far off. But we don't have that yet. So until we get a clean, reusable energy source that is like miles ahead of what we can do with our own power generators, we're not going to get close to peace on Earth.
I'll
and-
say that it is better explained in the Orville. So the Orville has a similar premise. Obviously, it's just it is Star Trek in a sense.
Yes.
And the way they say it is, it's not that we decided to get rid of money. It's that money literally became useless when we could, replicate matter out of nothing,
Yes.
out of just pure energy.
Exactly.
And that's a lot more believable than the way Star Trek is. Like, oh well, we could have money, but we just decided not to.
Essentially, yeah. So when I see the storylines in Picard, which I originally saw the first episode, this has promise, this is interesting, and then it goes, oh, this is not the future. Why are
First
people
episode.
sad? Why are people being jealous of Picard's estates? Why is this?
That lady as well. The lady that's jealous of his chateau is like she's not living that bad either. She's just living in a desert with quite a nice house.
Because she wants to, and it's like you can go anywhere you can teleport anywhere instantly on the planet. You could live anywhere. No one cares. You can make your own food. You can replicate your own food. It doesn't matter.
You could just move to a colony and start farming.
Whatever, exactly. You can make rice or grapes or whatever you want. But just everyone's angry at each other now, and we have police, but we don't see them, and they blow stuff up, but we don't know why. And there's no investigations to murder because murder is so rare, I guess. When it happens, no one cares. All these weird things. So when you have worlds, let's say with the lore of Star Wars in the sequels that don't match up to what came before, this is where we start having problems. The same with the Force, the same with space travel, etc. It gets things clouded, messed up, and not the same thing. So when people say, not my Star Wars, we know what they're talking about. And when this person starts saying, hey, it's so progressive that the sequels are talking about capitalism, you're like, what the hell does that have to do with anything?
I don't think she's praising the fact that it has an anti-capitalist message. I think she's actually saying the opposite. Like it's saying it's very blunt. Oh, Glibster. Oh, no, Glib. That was strange.
Oh yeah.
I think the Orchard person is saying that that was a terrible part of the movie, which is actually spot on. Yeah, it was an awful part of the movie.
If that's the case, I totally heard her wrong, so I do apologize. But let's keep going.
New or unique, Canto Bight is basically a Disneyfied version of the Hutt Cartel from the Old Republic, or the Trade Federation from the prequel trilogy. Remember those guys? Corporate overlords who held an entire planet hostage because the government was gonna raise their taxes? There's a fucking scorching hot take for you. We're gonna raise your taxes a bit. Okay, guess we'll massacre these innocent people on some random planet then.
The death toll is catastrophic.
I'd say that's more anti-corporatism than anti-capitalism. And also, it's actually, I'd agree that it's much better done in the prequels than the sequels with the Trade Federation. But then again, that's not an achievement.
No.
Fucking death toll? It's taxes! Will someone tell Space Amazon to chill the fuck out? Canto Bight is an objectively good scene that suits.
Did someone pause?
Canto Bight in his objectively good scene.
What? Objectively good? It's not though.
Let's just go back
terrible.
a few seconds. Let's hear that again.
I was confused there.
Catastrophic.
Fucking death toll? It's taxes! Will someone tell Space Amazon to chill the fuck out? Canto Bight is an objectively good scene that suits the story perfectly, but I never personally clicked with it because I already liked The Phantom Menace. I didn't need an abridged version of it, and since this one scene was shown to make or break the film for a lot of people, it warranted a mention. I know the big gimmick of the films is that the First Order or the alt-right.
So it's objectively good, and it matches the story perfectly.
The alt-right.
Yeah,
the First Order is the alt-right now.
What? Okay, I think that's just. I think the Empire and the First Order being the alt-right is purely projection from this. Like, what?
I want to know what makes it good, and what makes it objectively good, and how is it a perfectly good scene for the story of the movie? Those are big, big words, and I just don't know where they're coming from.
I'm just giving up. I'm honestly just giving up at this point. Because, like, what the fuck is he saying? It's fucking nutcase.
The Galactic Empire's Nazis playing big bad fascists dress up in their literal grandfather's old clothes, but
they're not
fascists. They're Imperials.
They're Imperials.
It's an empire. I think that's extremely dumbing it down.
But we already know where this person's coming from, so we know why they're using this language. So, to me, when I said in the chat, it sounded as if this person learned some words and they sounded good. So they're going to talk about Star Wars with those words. Like Nazi. Oh, yeah, that's the Empire. It's like, no.
Like, there are analogies to it's like, obviously Nazis, like, within the Empire and the First Order, but they're not literally Nazis. In fact, I think the Empire has more analogous to, like, the British Empire, but even to the extent they all have English accents.
And that's what I liked, because it explains some sort of heritage or background or discipline or culture or language that they teach. And now all of the citizens are going to speak in this dialect or whatever. I thought, hey, okay, there's actually a flavor of English or Terran or whatever you want to call it that everyone adheres to, because there's rules and we follow the rules and we bring the aqueduct and we bring toilets and all these things to modern standards. Like, okay, yeah, that's what conquerors do. They take over, they improve life, they bring law and order, and they bring technology.
Because remember watching the comment, and the British general called Hux like a bloody idiot.
Right.
I just want, I'm waiting for the next Imperial to say twat.
Yeah, to get some dialect from
Hux. Oh, that guy Hux, he's a git.
Now we have to break for tea because it's tea time, and everyone, have some
the government. The government from V for Vendetta took over the galaxy.
I actually wonder what Imperial tea would be like. Probably terrible.
Well,
we all know that Yorkshire tea is the superior tea.
Is the galactic standard for tea in the world. So, if you don't like Yorkshire tea,
super chat.
Oh, super chat. My apologies. The Hills. Thank you, sir. It took me a bit, but I realized who this girl is. I forgot how much she projects. She literally thinks Steven Universe creators are Nazis.
Wow, that's pretty insane.
I know very little about Steven Universe, but I just know that
Steven Universe is one of those far leftist SJW kind of things.
What?
As far as I've heard.
Wait a second.
I'm not sure if it's SJW, because I know that Jay really liked it.
Or it's woke or something.
All right, I'm not going to jump on that topic because I don't know it very well, but that sounds like a miscommunication problem, not a. It's because I say so. Yeah,
it's with Steven Universe is way out of my expertise.
Yeah, I'm not a media master. I don't know everything there is to know, but we kind of stick to the big ones. Like
you need to get someone who actually knows about that in here.
And if you look at the rest of the channel, there's a lot of what's the term for people who like My Little Pony? There's a lot of reference. Bronyism? Yeah, okay. So people who criticize that show for whatever. Hey, whatever you like, I don't care. You do you. But that's where this person's coming from. So social media related to politics, cartoons, and famous things like Star Wars. So
that gimmick runs its course after one movie, and most of The Last Jedi is spent trying to make Darth Wedgie look as much like a tragic character as possible, but then pulling back at the end. And, I'm getting Yellow Diamond vibes here. Like the producers are fighting over what to do with not Jason. One wants to just make him a villain, and the other wants to do the Darth Vader, I know there is good in you bit, and I'm not into it. Maybe I would have been into it 10 years ago, but now it's so boring. Though I do have to say,
okay, so this person is bored because it's been done before. That's the argument.
Oh, fuck's sake.
You cannot do anything that's been done before, apparently.
Is this the same Patrick Willems opinion? If it's different, it's good?
If it's new, if it's different, we weren't expecting it, therefore it's good.
Yeah.
That sort of opinion.
Subverted my expectations, it must be good.
It must be good, which is not exactly the case.
That for all my complaints, Adam Driver gives the kind of performance that really makes me miss Hayden Christensen.
Hold on. This whole operation was your idea.
This is my problem with Star Wars. Too many times the series just rehashes the exact same plot with different seasoning.
What? Again, he's pulling that up while talking about Jedi Fallen Order. What plot? Okay, so the basic plot of that is that you're trying to unlock a temple which will allow you to get a holocron, because there's a holocron hidden inside that has all of the young Force users that the Jedi were able to catalog. A copy of a crystal which has already been mentioned in canon in the Clone Wars. So how is that rehashing a plot that's already been done, unless you're just dumbing it down to the light side versus the dark side?
I don't mind having plots that are similar. And obviously, these are different movies.
No, but the plot isn't even similar. The only way I can think of that, calling the plot similar within Star Wars, is the Empire, the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy being incredibly similar.
That's
at least by the standards of The Force Awakens and TLJ.
I am totally okay with simple plots because if we look at all the plots throughout history, they're all the same. They've all been done before. So having Star Wars flavor or coating paint on it that we might have seen in another Star Wars story, fine. There's not much diversity in the movies.
I think he's specifically talking. She is specifically talking about I guess the Empire being the same as the first story.
Yes, I agree.
Or like the Kylo Ren being similar to Darth Vader.
That's a problem with JJ. We knew that from Episode 7. Episode 7 was the safest thing we've ever seen from a Star Wars.
She's trying to pull that over to the entirety of Star Wars, which I just
wrong.
don't think it. Yeah, as I said, she's talking like that while showing Fallen Order. When we haven't had a Star Wars story about someone trying to unlock a Jedi temple to find a holocron to get the to know the students of the Force sensitives, so that way the Empire don't get their hands on the holocron and they can raise a new Jedi Order.
That's why we're trying to dumb it down. So we're just focusing on the movies and saying, okay, what about the original trilogy? And
So according to this, if you all the stories in history, all the myths that follow the hero's journey, those are all terrible because the hero's journey has been done before. The monomyth. The hero's journey's been done before. That's why it's called the monomyth. So the first story whoever used the hero's journey, that's the only good one. Every other story that followed the hero's journey is apparently terrible because they've done things that have been done before.
Ever show this person the Iliad and the Odyssey? We'll just never.
Just all rehashed. It's all rehashed.
He'll hate everything.
Also, speaking on that, there's the writer who wrote Lone Wolf and Cub. He actually there's a plot line. There's a story that he uses pretty blatantly about 3 different times. The plot line where a guy kidnaps a woman and hides out in this little rundown shack, and then he gets surrounded by police, and eventually burns down or something. And that's done 3 different scenarios, but it's the exact same scenario each different time, and it's interesting each time, but it's the exact same story.
Yeah. A lot of the samurai stories are very, very reminiscent or inspired by each other. The unique take, aside from the artwork, is the multiple characters involved, the multiple plots involved, some philosophy, some emotion. But yeah, the plots are pretty much the same. Someone has something, they're keeping them hostage. They have some object, they have to go stop him or kill him. And it ends in death in some capacity. So,
how many times has Seven Samurai been done before?
Oh God,
redone.
Yeah,
it's been.
How many times has the hero winning at the end of the movie been done before?
Yeah,
it's like that even this is bad. It's bad. It's guys. It's bad.
There's a video game series called The Way of the Samurai, and it's just the Yojimbo plot done over and over again. It's just different characters, different situations, which makes them fun.
Look at every manga
Still interesting.
In the past, 3 months that just come out. They rehash the To Another World trope. A kid in a high school who gets approached by the school president to do something, and he ends up having a unknown or forgotten youth or friend from his childhood. It's like the same setup every single time for every single manga, and they're still popular. People still watch them or read them. So this is very common, especially when you're talking about comic books or manga, because they're so cheap. They're mass produced on so many authors and artists, and there's something for everyone. Every age, every genre, every style, it's there. And they're still being bought. People are still buying these little books on their commutes to read throughout the day. So I guess this person would just get bored because it's been done before, and especially in the same franchise. So I don't know. Very high standards this person has.
What? Batman is fighting the Joker again? It's been done before. It's just a rehashed.
I've seen that back in the 50s with the Shadow, because that's all Batman is. He's just a rehash of the Shadow.
He's just Zorro. Yeah.
Which is just a rehash of Zorro. Which is the rehash of Hades.
Superman is fighting Lex Luthor again. Superman is punching something again. Oh man, this is lazy work. Okay, lazy work.
Civil War trilogy, the 2D Clone Wars cartoon, Knights of the Old Republic 1, Rebels, Resistance, the First Order trilogy, they all follow the exact same story. Plucky underdog everyman rebels fighting against the evil empire.
What?
So what?
No. I would
Even if
say
that's true.
that's not even
If
true.
that's true, so what?
But let's look at more specifically. I want to hear what exactly is being compared.
Since the First Order trilogy, they all follow the exact same. The series just rehashes the exact same plot with different seasoning. The Civil War trilogy, the 2D Clone Wars cartoon, Knights of the Old.
To say Knights of the Old Republic is a rehash is really pushing it.
I'm just bewildered by this.
Yeah.
Republic 1,
Also, just completely passed over Star Wars the Clone piece of shit. Why the hell would you mention Rebels and Resistance but not mention the Clone Wars, the best of all of the anime? Anyway, even from what little I know of Resistance and from what I've seen of Rebels, it's not just rehashing the same thing. Said while some of them can be the underdog story, mostly within Rebels and Resistance, because obviously the Rebels are an underdog and so are the Resistance, but that's not inherently bad. And in the prequels and the Clone Wars, they're mostly they're not the underdog, they're mostly two fighting forces which are of equal strength. So I'm just bewildered by this take.
Yeah, I'm kind of speechless myself. It's kind of hard to say these things so quickly about so many properties within the same universe. Yeah.
Rebels, Resistance, the First Order trilogy, they all follow the exact same story. Plucky underdog everyman rebels fighting against the evil empire. I'm sure the kids are gonna love it, but for me it's just not fun the seventh time around.
Okay, if you don't like these stories, why are you criticizing them? Like, what's...
It doesn't seem like you're a Star Wars fan to begin with. As far as I've seen, like I've never found Leia, Luke, and Han interesting. Never found all these other movies interesting. Didn't like all these other franchise installments because they're quote unquote the same rehash plot done over again. But you'd like Rey. It doesn't seem like you are a Star Wars fan to begin with. That's what seems to be the pattern here. And all these people who are complaining about Star Wars these days, a lot of these people who are pro Last Jedi and everything, are pro Rey, seem to be just pro Rey, and they hate all of the rest of Star Wars. They don't seem to be Star Wars fans.
That would explain a rationalization, or really poor rationalization, of the content of The Last Jedi, why they like it. Oh, there's Rey. She's doing something. Oh, she's strong. I like that. Oh, she's talking to Kylo. Look at that. She's being strong with him. Oh, she's being vulnerable with Kylo. Isn't that special? Ooh. All these other silly things that Rey does. It's like, yeah, can you talk about the rest of the story, which is really bad and stupid?
Yeah, they always go on and on about Kylo and Rey and all that stuff, and then they go back whenever they talk about everything else that's Star Wars, the original trilogy, the prequel series. They all hate it. They all seem to hate all those other things that are Star Wars.
Well, I mean, the prequel trilogy is perfectly valid to hate. I mean, I like it, but that's purely because of my own biased reasons, and I can enjoy it for the ideas and the ideas behind what was attempted more than actually being of quality.
I mean, they come off though as people who are Star Wars fans, which they seem to not be. They just like Rey, they like The Last Jedi, they like maybe The Force Awakens too. But then they come out and say they hate the original trilogy and they hate all the other stuff that has the Star Wars logo on it.
That is very dismissive. It's not like I dislike it because of X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. It's just I hate it.
I hate it.
It's redundant. It's like that's not an argument.
I think she's just a fan of like the Old Republic MMO, and that's it.
I guess
she's referenced multiple times like that. This is like better because the Hutts did a better analogy of corporatism in Old Republic.
If you like Kingdom Hearts, already we have a problem because you can't really derive much of a story plot value from that series. It's a mess. It
is a mess of a plot.
It is such a joke. When you start amalgamating franchises for a video game from Disney and Square Enix, and you try to make sense of that crap, and you hire the Japanese developers who do it, forget about it. You can't follow that crap. There's like 13 games. I don't know what the hell they are.
I think it's become a meme by now. It's a meme of how confusing the Kingdom Hearts storyline is. You can watch there are videos that are hours long trying to explain the convoluted mess that is the Kingdom Hearts storyline, and you just end that video with more questions than you had answers.
I don't know anything about Kingdom Hearts other than it's a lot of crossovers, but like I've heard people who like uphold it as being absolutely brilliant. Then again, saying that, one of them is my friend who I showed you the Star Wars The Last Jedi video they did, the Rise of Skywalker video.
Well, the thing is with these, the same with the new sequels, is that they have great artists, they have great musicians, they have great voice
CGI
actors
artists and everything.
So there's something to appreciate there, and they get lost in that. Oh, it's Goofy, and oh, it's Daffy Duck or whatever. You're like, okay, cool. And the same thing is said with Star Wars in general. It's like, oh yeah, I remember John Williams. I remember the sound of the TIE fighter. Yada yada. So it's that nostalgia hit along with God knows what they throw at the screen, and I don't know what this person's argument is because he doesn't like that. He doesn't like the old stuff. So it's like, what are you arguing for? Just Rey? Rey is great? Okay.
And I get the feeling that's the entire motive here, to remake the old movies so that the kids develop their nostalgia filter for Disney-branded films instead of expecting them to watch old films from the 80s that only aging Gen Xers actually enjoy. The Clone Wars trilogy...
That makes no sense, because kids wouldn't care. So
it's also not the Clone Wars trilogy, it's the prequels trilogy. Stop referring to it as the Clone Wars trilogy, because it's just incorrect. The Clone Wars is only 2 of the movies, it's not the third. Or the first, sorry.
It's asserting a lot of things without actually providing any substance or proof.
I'm just
like, everyone hates these movies.
Already.
All these people hate these movies. Well, show me evidence people hate these movies. No, I'm just going to say that people hate these movies and that they're all terrible because I say they're terrible.
Like, people love The Mandalorian, whether some people don't like the creative direction or the lack of new ideas, but
it's The Mandalorian is good. Yeah, The Mandalorian is a refreshing breath of fresh air.
And there's nothing new. There's really nothing new in there.
I think the only reason why it's even partly considered good is because I think it's okay. I think it's fine. I don't think it's absolutely brilliant. I just think it's fine. But the reason why everyone's going like nut shit over it is because it's far better than anything that Disney has out in ages.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's it. It's like, wow, this is actually consumable and watchable and likable.
There's no wokeness in there. I mean, the only thing they have close to being woke is that one big strong lady, but she's not really woke. She's
not
a character who's strong.
Yeah.
She and the Mandalorian kind of fight each other to a standstill, and you have to remember that the Mandalorian that we're following around is not Boba Fett. He's actually portrayed as a greenhorn. He's kind of new. He's kind of a rookie in relative to the other Mandalorian.
Yeah, he doesn't have his full armor either. Doesn't even have a jetpack, which surprised. Like most Mandalorians we see outside of that all have jetpacks, or mostly anyway. Hell, even Sabine Wren has her entire armor before like she get the first time she's on screen.
Yeah, there's a whole culture behind getting your Mandalorian armor and what that means, and who's the leader of the Mandalores, and all these other aspects. So. Yeah, it's an interesting little culture of the Disney world, the Star Wars world. So I'm just glad we have it, and it's being addressed because it was brought up in KOTOR, and I thought, wow, what a great little weird story that caused this major conflict. And now they're expanding upon that in a more digestible, simpler, easier to understand story. Can you imagine bringing the Mandalorians into the conflict with Revan and the Mandalorian Wars? Like, that would be nuts. That'd be crazy. They can try and do it, but you'd have to be fleshing out the entire storyline of the in-between actually before KOTOR and then during the events of KOTOR 2. So there's lots to talk about if they wanted to, but that would be a lot of work. Why not just do your own thing of a hitman running around the galaxy?
Let Dev do it again.
Oh, yeah.
Just
different, looking at the way the privileged and high-class organizations become corrupt and leave themselves weak to take over by fascists. And The Last Jedi tried to mimic that, but in The Last Jedi, the people who are responsible for the fascist takeover are war profiteers and self-entitled little brats, completely separate from the quote-unquote good guys. In the Clone Wars trilogy,
no, they're just people.
But the war profiteers, they just sell weapons. They're not the cause behind it. the First
Yeah,
Order.
they're just people who are doing business. That's all they do.
Fuck me, this is certainly an out there take. It is certainly a take I've never heard
Yeah, it's
before.
like just forget the actual message of the story being a neutral party, just doing their job as a business partner, affecting both the good guys and the bad guys. It's like, yep, that's all we are. And the message from DJ saying, "Don't join this entire."
I've never heard like Revan being called a Mary Sue. I've never
No.
heard like every single Star Wars story is the same story, and then because we can even prove it isn't the same underdog story
Yeah.
because in the prequels the Jedi aren't underdogs; they are the government. They are supported by the government.
Yeah, and the great thing about the Revan story is you take classic video game tropes, even in KOTOR 2, and you twist them a bit, and you connect that with the story itself, combined with the lore and the history of Star Wars, and you have this beautiful tale of first a leader of a war and then the general of a war, and it connects with so many other aspects like the dark side and what it means to be a Force user and where does strength come from, what does it mean to be a Jedi. All these beautiful ideas that pop in and cause.
That's even forgetting about most of them which you encounter in like side stories.
Oh, the side stories are great too. All the side character arcs and how they like it's kind of awkward how everyone just becomes force sensitive because they're around you and you're so strong, and it's the pain that they feel through you. All these other weird force bonds that are generated. That's part of the mysticism. I can sell that, or I could buy that. That's fine. So there's that hard to chew on part, but there's this overall encompassing part of philosophy which you don't get anywhere else. And that's why KOTOR is such a great story. It's not just about finding out who you are and what's going on in the world. It's about this ongoing philosophy of subverting our understanding of the Force, which no other story has done as well as we have seen.
Let's keep going, get it over with.
People responsible were the Jedi. They started the cock-up cascade that led to the Republic falling in the first place. The people set up as the good guys in the series up to this point.
They did not cause the downfall, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, they didn't.
They were manipulated and...
Let's just keep going. This is totally wrong.
Look, has this person even watched these fucking movies?
The bad
Jedi
guy's
were-
the big gray man with the weird face, and he
Big
killed a bunch
gay.
of people. That's the bad guy. Okay, he caused it all. All right, just so you guys don't know Star Wars. That's what happens.
Fuck me.
Pretty obvious, but
This
just
is a
case.
stupid video. It's fucking retarded.
Were the ones causing all the problems. That's just more interesting. Knights of the Old Republic 1 was like a Kingdom Hearts version of the Civil War trilogy where it's retold
Whoa.
almost frame by frame and word for word.
What?
By contrast, Knights of the Old Republic 2 was a lot more nuanced.
What is he talking about now? Did he just compare KOTOR to Kingdom Hearts?
What?
Can we just skip this and just not mention anything about this ever again?
It just...
Oh my god.
Also, KOTOR not being interesting or new at any... I just...
Yeah, I'm not even gonna comment on this. This is so far out there. I'm not gonna...
Sorry, I'm just thinking to bang my head against the table to try and make sense of all this.
And interesting and started the trend in Star Wars where jaded Sith Lords are often the most interesting and refreshing characters in the series. Kreia, the Empire's Wrath,
Again, why does this person keep referencing the Old Republic as like the best thing to ever happen to Star Wars? Newsflash, it's fucking not. It is extremely bland and boring in a lot of aspects. The gameplay is crap. And while it can be enjoyable, and I can respect you for enjoying it, and like some of the characters can be quite charismatic and interesting and attractive, sure, I'll give you that. But it's not the best thing to fucking happen to Star Wars. Seriously, shut the fuck up. This video, god damn.
You're getting really excited about this guy.
I'm not excited. Is not the word I would describe.
Okay.
Say pissed off because every other line is like, "Oh, the Old Republic, the Old Republic, the Old Republic did it." It's like, no, it fucking didn't.
Darth Imperius, Darth Mar, Empress Asina, they've all been stellar and standout characters precisely because they're jaded and disassociated from the fascist ideology of half the Empire while not
The fascist ideology of the Empire.
But Lana supports the Empire. She's a fucking spy for them. She's an intelligence officer.
But she's
God
subverting
damn
our
it.
understanding of the fascist ways of the Empire.
Yeah, I was saying that. You weren't expecting the Empire to be pacified, as you need them to be the part of the good guys against the Eternal.
Yeah, you have to compare the Empire to a more evil empire. It's like, oh, they're more fascist. They're the real fascists. That's a great technique.
Not immediately turning around and becoming a pacifist extremist and needlessly dragging out the story.
Charging through the jungle to rescue me. How romantic.
Don't forget the part where I wring the Chancellor's neck.
You can argue about the quality of these stories, and it varies wildly, but at least they explore new territory and do new things.
Again, this is the Patrick Willems argument. If it's new, it's good. I've never seen it before, it's good. My brain could not fathom this setting or these characters or these plots. It's good. No analysis of why it's quality or why it's not quality. Just, it's good. It's new.
By
Does
contrast,
anyone have a gun lying around me? I have a sudden urge to blow
Deep breaths,
my
sir.
fucking
Deep
brain.
breaths. Ah, this is so good. Everything's okay in the world.
trilogy spends way too much fucking time pontificating on the cultural significance of Star Wars and fandom to the point that Luke's entire character arc in The Last Jedi may as well be a YouTube video titled "Your Headcanon About Luke is Garbage and Here's Why," which, by the way, I'm currently 50% of the way through the script for. And while I'm all for deconstructing fandom, that's a deconstruction that should have ended with The Force Awakens. Picking it back up and dragging it over the coals again in The Last Jedi always felt like a wasted opportunity. Funnily enough, the
dragging it over the coals, throwing it through a garbage, what do you call it? Not a garbage compressor, but a garbage destroyer. It's just, yeah, taking all the lore and throwing it out the window is pretty much what happens in The Last Jedi. So I guess he's got that kind of technically correct. If you're dragging something over the coals, you're destroying it again. Whew.
Old Republic serves as a microcosm of Disney's Star Wars properties with the onset of Rebels, Resistance, and The Mandalorian. See, in SWTOR, you have 4 Force-using classes and 4 Force-blind classes. And the good stories are found in the Force-using classes because of course they are. It's fucking Star Wars. Oh, do you want to be a smuggler?
Okay, so none of the stories are good?
Also, Thrawn's not a fucking Imperial agent. He's a Grand fucking Admiral, you piece of shit idiot. So, has this person watched these things? Has he? Has she actually watched these things? Have they actually fucking looked at them and just what the fuck? How have they come to this conclusion? It's bewildering to me.
Well, apparently,
it is damn right.
All the non-Force users are bad. The stories are bad, all of them. But all the ones with the Force, those are good. And I distinctly remember David Hayter's voice actor for, I think, the Jedi Knight. And
the Force Consular class
yeah,
is the most boring fucking story there is.
It's pretty boring, yeah.
The Jedi Knight story.
I remember it being pretty lame. I was like, okay, that's not very dramatic. Everyone's sort of chilled out because they're Jedi, and you're like, all right, fine, whatever.
The Jedi Knight story has a much more interesting path because, you know, you're actually... At the end, you get to at least fight the Emperor, and by the you also get the interesting twist of Kira. Like, not saying this is good story, but it's at least more interesting than the rest, and it's more it's not terrible.
I only saw a few because I was watching Exlatalis's playthroughs, and one of them was the Imperial Agent, I believe. That one was interesting. I thought that being an agent who can go anywhere and do stuff and double cross other people, I thought, hey, this is pretty cool. You can do lots of neat things. You can meet lots of cool people and have them help you out. And not to say, I haven't played these games, but if you can do good choices as a servant of the Empire, whatever you want to call that, and, you know, seal someone's fate, because again, you are the right hand of the Emperor, you can do these things. Cool. That sounds cool. But apparently, because you don't have the Force, you suck. It's a boring story.
Or an Imperial agent? Well, here you go. Let me know when you're ready to play a real character. While the game has 8 characters, the story after the class campaigns is explicitly written with the Jedi Knight and Sith Warrior in mind, and the other 6 are just kind of hanging out. Meanwhile, I lost interest in Resistance almost immediately at this line in the trailer.
Can you imagine what it's it's like to be an ace pilot.
Yeah, I'll totally agree that I lost interest in Resistance. I've only seen one episode because it had battle droids in it, and I thought they were going to go for a different thing, which they didn't, and I just immediately lost interest. Apart from
Yeah, these are more the cartoony style of storytelling for Star Wars, so it's understandable.
But Resistance is so fucking cartoony, and when you look at like Rebels and Clone Wars, it makes Rebels look like a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah.
Because like I don't think Rebels is, again, it's fine. It's good at some points, like some parts it can be enjoyable, and obviously Clone Wars is fucking fantastic. But Resistance, from the one episode I've seen, they have characters cartoonishly dodging blasters.
Right.
Like they move like the Flash,
Right.
saying, "Ha, you didn't get me. You didn't get me. Oh fuck, because the lady shot me, they got me."
So it's designed more for kids, obviously. So someone who's more sensitive to more adult themes, more adult concepts, more adult plots would be like, "Oh, this is weak. This is not for me," and that's fine. You can have that opinion.
They're still trying to use nostalgia aspects. As what drew me into that one episode was that they were bringing battle droids back, and the whole idea was that these pirates were trying to take over the station by using battle droids, and it was all just a story to get battle droids as the security droids for the station to replace the past security. Again, past that, I haven't watched it. I just gave up because it was so stupid.
Okay.
No. Because this is Star Wars, not fucking Top Gun. I'm reminded.
You could have a Top Gun story in Star Wars if it was well written. They're like a pilot. You could have a story about a pilot and stuff like that.
All right, it's cool.
So you could have you could totally have a Top Gun story in Star Wars, because the Star Wars is a universe where you can tell any kind of fucking story.
And I believe that was the scenario in TIE Fighter as well as X-Wing. So you were playing the role of a pilot. So those stories exist. They're not as memorable. They're not as, big.
LieratureDevil, you missed me raging out on this person because they think the Old Republic is the best thing in Star Wars ever. All the characters are just so great.
Pretty sure it's not. I haven't played the game all the way through or anything like that, so I can only assume from what they've said so far that all the characters in Old Republic are great because they are perfect in every way and are ludicrously powerful.
Only half of them, and the only good half are all the Force users. Every other storyline is garbage. All right.
The Force conscious story is so fucking boring.
What evidence and examples and substance do they provide?
No examples whatsoever. Like they mentioned a couple of.
Imagine my shock.
They say Lana is like great because she comes disillusioned with the Empire. I think she still support. I think there's I haven't played this far. I kind of gave up. But from what I've seen, Lana honestly doesn't care about the Empire by the end. She only follows you, and there isn't any kind of story arc for her. She just follows you, and then she'll go whatever you choose. If you choose to go with the Republic or the Empire, she's with it. She's totally fine for that. And at no point is she ever disillusioned with the Empire, which is what they're trying to claim they do.
Yeah, the side characters really make the story, whether you're on the Jedi or the which is kind of a sad thing when you're talking about a protagonist sort of putting the whole weights of the story on their shoulders. It's like, no, this character over here, really cool. Like, what's that chick from the Jedi side who could be both a Sith or a Jedi?
Oh, Jace, I believe. Jace Williams.
Yeah, I think so. I thought that was really cool. You could change her to be any way.
No, but it's very obvious she's supposed to be the dark side, because the light side version of her is extremely.
Oh.
Of how some people claim the heart of Star Wars is the space battles. Now, if you're someone who believes the heart of Star Wars is the short scene in the Death Star trench, I'd like to ask what mirror universe you're actually from.
No, but it's a part of it. It's a part of the universe.
Yeah. Well, Star Wars was kind of like World War II in space. With World War One's fight, air fighting. It's a dog fighting in space, pretty much.
Hence the title. We have battles in space with big ships and small ships, and they blow each other up, and it's kind of the thing, which is why The Last Jedi ruined that with the Holdo maneuver, which just ruins the entire concept. So, Apparently, they didn't bother him because Last Jedi was a bad movie, but Rey was in it, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Which makes
Rey's
zero
better.
sense. I don't know how that works. It's just Rey good, everything else bad.
I mean, all these arguments usually boil down to they'll just disregard and demonize anything in order to make Rey acceptable, which she isn't.
Because here in the real world, this is the heart of Star Wars.
Now, in the beginning, it wasn't.
The Force is kind of, in a way, the heart of Star Wars. But I would just say that it's only lightsaber battles is, again, fucking retarded.
I mean, how many lightsaber battles were in A New Hope?
There's
How many lightsaber battles were in Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi?
That was an amazing
aspects to Star Wars. Part of it is the lightsaber battle. Part of it is the Force. Part of it is things like smugglers. Part of it is organizations of like the Rebellion and the Empire. And it's made up of lots of little things. It isn't just lightsaber battles. And again, I'm have to question: has this person actually watched these films? Because it's so benign to me that someone could watch these films and get this result from like this opinion.
This is a very biased side of look. Let's say you're looking at a dinner and there's all these dishes and you're just saying, well, you know what, this dish is really all about the peas, and you're like, okay, and you try the peas, like, yeah, they taste good, but they're not the best peas in the world. They're not the standout flavor of that dish. They're just one of many flavors, and there's no real major component. But if you look at the most exciting, I would say, yes, the peas would be the most exciting if we're using the analogy of them being the lightsaber battles. Sure, okay, yeah, they're very exciting. But you know what? So are the trench run. So is all the spaceship stuff. So is all learning about the Force. So is learning about good and evil and light and dark and all the philosophy. Those are all interesting things. So this person obviously likes the lightsaber battles. And that's fine. You could have that opinion. But that's just his opinion. That's just there. You can't.
It's not exactly true. It's just an opinion they have.
Yeah, there's no.
And I'm pretty sure they're not going to back up anything that supports that this is exactly the heart of Star Wars and tell us why, narratively or structurally, this is true.
Yeah. Very exciting. We get it.
Also, I do think it's incredibly funny how the trailers for the Old Republic are infinitely more exciting and interesting than the actual.
They put so much effort and time to making those pre-rendered cutscenes.
They actually outsourced them to kind of what they're called. It's a specific studio that does all of the cinematic trailers. Like they did Mass Effect trailers. They did like almost any cinematic trailer that they've done them all. Like every single one of those things. So BioWare didn't put the effort in to make this. They just said, "Oh look, here's some concept designs. Go at it."
They subcontracted out to other better companies to do this. Yeah, you can do it. Okay, here's $1 million. Thanks.
I wish we could be playing that game. Yeah, Blur Studio, someone in the comments said.
Okay,
also, another thing. Yeah,
lightsaber battles are there because they look cool. They're very cool things to watch, but they're not the heart of Star Wars. I wouldn't say they're the heart of Star Wars.
I was actually going to go about the Old Republic trailers because I think the idea that the animation gives them like you can do anything. You're not limited to like the bounds of physics. As long as you can believe it, like you could have Jedi doing flips and kicking someone while stabbing someone else, and do all these kind of crazy things which make the trailer so exciting.
Remember the lightsaber battle in Episode 4? How amazing that was. Got this old man versus this robot man, and you're just.
And then you have like bastard not Bastila. Fucking
Sean, I don't know. Yeah.
Then you have Satil Shan,
Yeah.
who's like doing all this crazy shit. Like everyone's just kind of like ding, 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 and the Bastila's just running off. Like, "Wah!" Just some random roadie in slow motion.
That was actually a pretty good move. Shadow Diversity actually broke that one down. It was pretty good.
You see that? He used 2 lightsabers and blocked Force Lightning. Wow.
Yeah, how come he can do that?
Must be a secret Jedi technique. Okay, we get it. This
I
is
feel
like
this is going to be the next few minutes of the video.
skip ahead. This guy's like just wasting our time here. Yep. Oh, here we go. Oh, more fighting.
Still?
In the Old Republic, it's like part of the battle is like cutscene. It's like, well, maybe I would actually want to play some like awesome part of the battle like Fallen Order does. Okay, I think we just keep playing here, can't we?
We got some
7 of 9.
There we go.
Swung at another lightsaber, you're not Star Wars, you're just Star Trek with less big lesbian energy.
The robot has been neutralized.
No.
May I leave now?
If I were making a Star Wars
No.
story, I wouldn't prioritize space.
It's
What?
It's the Force. The Star Trek does not have the Force. It's the Force that generates the skills that the Jedi can use to use a lightsaber.
Star Trek with more lesbian energy.
Wait, what? Is that what he said?
Just go back.
Do we have to go back?
No, we have to fucking like seriously. This video is outrageous.
And now your republic shall fall.
Again, this trailer
That's
is easily
Star
like
Wars.
the,
If you don't have a
the most
lightsaber
interesting
being
part of this
swung
video.
at another lightsaber, you're not Star Wars, you're just Star Trek with less big lesbian energy.
Oh,
What?
less big lesbian energy.
No, but where does that even come from? What do you mean, less big lesbian energy? What does that even mean?
Also, it's like Star Wars. Star Wars is about war. Star Trek is about exploration. Fucks how?
It's because
Seriously,
I mean,
what
you
the
don't have
fuck?
if you don't have lightsabers, then the two things, of course, that Star Wars is known for are lightsabers and lesbian energy. That's what you get with
Has
Star
this
Wars
person
or
only
something.
watched Voyager? I assume maybe he thinks like I don't know, 7 of 9 Janeway have a thing. I don't know because they're a
They,
big
they
ship. or
don't. They have this. They have a mentor, sort of student relationship.
something. Just
Janeway's kind of like a robot. She's more mechanical than 7 of 9.
Yeah. She's a bit psychopathic, yeah. Very antisocial.
she like I think the only part I don't like about Janeway is how religiously she holds on to like the Prime Direct, and like she rakes the guy over
on some
the
days,
coals.
she's pretty good with it. On other days,
I think she wakes up and flips a coin, and if it's heads, she's all about the Prime Directive.
This Equinox episode, I've probably already talked about this before, but like she holds ransom over the coals for like just doing anything to make sure his crew lives. Like, if you do that, then you're no longer human. It's like, bitch, you haven't had to go through the shit he's had to go through. Your ship's squeaky clean.
yes, we
They have sonic showers. They have all the conveniences of life.
But anyway, back to the point. Star Trek and Star Wars. What the if there's no glowy knives, then apparently Star Wars becomes Star Trek.
Because the Star Trek, they have the Force too, apparently.
What the fuck?
They have a lot of philosophy on how to live your life with peace and love and compassion, and then the other one is lots of logic and
And then lesbian energy is in there
Lesbian-
somewhere. I don't know where that actually fits into either of these
When
franchises.
I think of
I
Star
honestly
Trek, that
just-
doesn't pop into my head. Yeah,
I just believe that because she's showing 7 of 9, that she's only watched Voyager and she's only played the Old Republic.
remember the first lesbian kiss in Star Trek was DS9. So
was Dax.
Yeah, it
Dax
was Dax.
kissing a former lover of Curzon.
I think it was a former lover of a. I don't know.
I think it was
Former lover of
interracial
one of the
too.
past.
Right, and this was a temporary thing because they didn't have a host for the other Trill, so what's her name took it, and
Yeah.
No. I think
it was Jadzia Dax who did it.
Yeah, it was Jadzia Dax, and it was an episode where Jadzia met one of the former.
It was kind of a really bad episode.
They used to be different. Like they both used to be different people, and they both used to be lovers. I believe it was the one that died in a crash that were the past host. Stargate is just Star Trek, but with more 9/11.
ooh, that's I don't even know what that means.
Well, honestly, it makes about the same amount of sense.
Yeah,
as
okay.
If you don't have lightsaber battle, your Star Trek with less lesbians.
Yeah, apparently batliths are too old school. You need some energy
Oh god,
weapons.
we're gonna get like womb idea. There's like Voyagers in the shape of a womb.
Oh dear. Yeah. Let's not give anyone any ideas.
Plot has been neutralized. May I leave now?
If I were making a Star Wars story, I wouldn't prioritize space battles. What I would prioritize is swinging a lightsaber, throwing shit with the Force, lightning, choking a whelp, freeing slaves, Jedi ladies kissing Sith ladies, punching corrupt politicians, killing corrupt politicians, and maybe, if there's time, talk about the systemic rot inherent to capitalist democracy. Or just...
Well, that sounds awful. That sounds terrible. Why would you ever do that?
So
you would do that. A competent writer, however, wouldn't.
So endless lightsaber battles. That's all you want. Nothing but Force.
Just lightsaber battles for 2 hours.
Rogue One,
fantastic.
And if you're
they must pathologically hate Rogue One.
If your writing is so tight, you have time to talk about how capitalism is bad.
Also, I want to point out that the only lesbian relationship you can have is actually like only the Eternal Throne expansion. I believe it's not within like the main character stories.
It was about freeing slaves. It was about why is suddenly Star Wars all about freeing slaves all the time?
I don't know.
Freeing horses, freeing animals, freeing this,
honestly,
and freeing that.
Fuck this video. Fuck this person. It's honestly the worst video that you've covered. While
You
I've
say
been on
that
it
every
anyway.
single time.
No. Like the first one was Wit and Folly, and then it was Make Stuff video, and now it is this one. It is easily this one. Landslide.
See, I can respect that because there's people who say things, they think they know what they're talking about. They have a very niche opinion on a fandom that I know, and they twist it so much that you sit back in awe of how far they can go with it. And this is this person in this case.
At least when you're talking to someone who is defending The Last Jedi, they're actually talking about, well, mostly, we've watched the same film at least. This person has walked away from watching these things and came out with a completely different perspective. Like something that wasn't even in the goddamn film. And somehow she seems to think that the best part of Star Wars is a shitty MMO that is a clone of, what was it, World of Warcraft. It's an extremely generic, like, MMO. The only interesting thing about it is the story, which is extremely, I just fuck this whole thing. I've talked about it billions of times. I don't need to re-explain myself and my feelings about Star Wars.
It's fascinating to me just to hear this kind of a response from a fan who actually knows, because I barely know anyone who's played the MMO and
my reaction or the reaction of this person.
Yeah, well,
what?
At this time, I'm impressed by both because you're just like, oh.
But it's so. What the fuck to me? Like, I'm just bewildered. This person is insane.
Write down, this person is crazy. Don't listen to them. They're out of their mind.
I'm being reminded of who's the crazy guy Fab used to cover? Like you said, Rags was the queer.
Not General Lee or Major Lee, not him.
Jared Genesis, that's it.
Oh, that dude.
Like when Jared Genesis came out and with a completely different story to what was actually in the film. I'm just being reminded this person has managed to completely misjudge almost everything.
Well, their original premise was that Rey was on the top 3 of characters in Star Wars because she was new and different. And then we started talking about the prequels, and then we started talking about the Old Republic, and that's when things started going weird, because then they talked about, well, not really talked about this. Really,
all Star Wars being the same, all of it being the underdog story.
Yeah, and if it's not lightsabers, or if lightsabers are not involved.
Oh, don't worry, the Hills. That remarkable Republican somehow manages to come out of a completely different thing as well. But then again, that person is a parody. It's not actually real. It's sort of like a leftist person pretending to be a Republican.
Okay.
At least that was what was revealed at some point.
Well, apparently the Old Republic has the best Star Wars stories, guys. So go play those Force user, four Force user storylines. Which are the best of all of Star Wars. Just go out and play those wonderful games.
Throw Space Bezos off a cliff. You don't fixate on being an ace pilot or a bounty hunter. You fixate on being a Jedi or a Sith or both, because screw you, because that's who drives.
So you can't possibly make a good story about a bounty hunter. You can't possibly make a good story about a secret agent. You couldn't possibly make an interesting story about a soldier or... Oh, fuck it. What the fuck is this guy on?
That's why Mandalorian does not exist. That's why it got canceled after the first season.
You can't have a Star Wars story about a bounty hunter. What the fuck? This person.
Gotta have Force powers. Gotta have lightsaber. It's the only way you're gonna do it, guys.
The story of Star Wars. The Republic and the Empire are built around the ancient rivalries between the Jedi and the Sith, and that's why they keep coming back and starting this shit all over.
No, because the Sith... The reason why the Sith and the Republic are at odds, because the Sith is... It's not because of the Jedi and the Sith. It's just because the Sith Empire is wanting to destroy the Republic. Just because they're an empire. It's not really much to do with the Jedi, for fuck's sake. Why am I explaining this to this person? Why am I even attempting it?
You'd think that politics would be a really obvious tie-in to the comparison between an empire and a republic fighting each other, and going, yeah, I like political themes. I like, the left side of things. I like hating capitalism. It's not about that. It's really all about these evil, magical wizards who want to kill each other. Like, okay.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's all a movie. They're all movies about space wizards intended for children.
Yeah. That's what it's really all about. And they have to have lightsabers and use the Force, or else it's not really a story.
Just
Over again. In SWTOR, that is the central theme, and even the non-Force using classes are built around how they manage their day-to-day lives when space wizards keep tearing the galaxy apart over who uses a space magic better. And it's the first time the non-lightsaber characters in Star Wars have been anything close to interesting.
That's how you know this person was not a fan of Star Wars. It's consistent
is
respect.
The only time they're interesting, but yet they're not in.
No. Canto Bite was really awesome because there wasn't lightsabers and there wasn't Force users there.
Wait a minute, hold on. I thought you just said it can't be awesome unless there's lightsaber battles in it. But apparently, Canto Bite is awesome. Why does this person
have such a fucking hard-on for the Old Republic game? Newsflash is not that good. I've played through most of it, and I enjoyed some of it, but it's not that good.
It's funny. These circles are really like spinning around. How many times have we got over this? I don't know.
I'm saying the same thing over and over again. I'm in a loop.
I love if you were to make this into an essay, it would have point 1, point 2, and then
point 1 is Old Republic is good. Point 2, Old Republic is the best thing ever. Point 3, Old Republic is the best. Okay, go play your fucking Old Republic then. Shut the fuck up.
But instead of having 3 points, it would just be like regurgitating Old Republic is good, lightsabers are good. By the way, Old Republic and lightsabers are really good. Old Republic lightsabers and Force powers are good. Oh, the Force powers are also good. Then the Old Republic, it just keeps going on and on. It's like, okay, yes, we get it.
Like Lando wasn't interesting, Han Solo wasn't interesting, Leia wasn't interesting.
Like, Rey is the best, so she's up there the top 3 because I said so. And then we just go back to
the
Old Republic.
Woman or you're Force sensitive, you're not interesting.
Yep, you have to be force sensitive. Then you have to make yourself a lightsaber. Then you're good. That's it. You're good.
Honestly, Nathan, in the comments, yeah, the embodiment of a crazy fanfiction.
It's
Like,
a very niche.
No, I'll go full stop and say crazy person.
It's a very niche fanfic. Like you're like, oh, that's a strange take on Lana, or that's a strange take on Rey. Like I've never read a weird story like that before. Okay, that's fine.
Scrubbing that away just to create the watered-down environment of plucky underdog rebels against the Space Authority Part 20 and continuously contriving reasons for this to keep happening are not actually making anything better. The Force Awakens goes as far as to destroy the Republic simply because the two sides being on an equal footing doesn't gel with the underdog fantasy. It's boring. Likewise with the deep lore fandom metagame nonsense like...
Yeah,
Okay,
it was
so now
really
we're
dumb
getting
when
into
the
some actual
sequel trilogy
points.
did that. When sequel trilogy made what should be the dominating Republic be somehow underdogs again, that was terrible. They should not have done that.
Why is she trying to bend over backwards? So she's trying to both say that the sequel's like fantastic while also shitting on.
I guess Rey is the best character in Star Wars. She just happens to be in a terribly written trilogy.
I think.
Look,
Except for Canto Bight, that was good.
Except for
logic
Canto
in this
Bight.
video is like trying to look for something that doesn't. My brain's too hurting to make analogies.
Yeah, I think you need a nap there. You're just gonna calm down. Like, whoa, this is too much for me.
Look, I may take it to heart too much because obviously I love Star Wars and I love Star Trek. And I'm just bewildered. Like, what is this?
This is not as bad as your reaction to episode 9, so that's okay.
My reaction to what?
Episode 9.
Oh, that was more just giving up.
Oh, well.
They get the Death Star plans, or what's Han Solo's story? When a sensible person would respond to that with a resounding, who the fuck actually cares? And in the case of Solo, that's exactly...
You know what? I really wanted to watch the Solo story. I wanted to watch Obi-Wan stories, maybe even the Yoda story if they have one. I'd like to see what they do with it. What's wrong with that? That's pretty reasonable.
I think you could make
the idea of them is good, but putting them in these people's hands, I wouldn't trust it any day.
Yeah.
In these people's hands, you get a naked scene between Han Solo and Chewie, and you also get sexual tension between Lando and a droid.
I really don't want to see the soy woke versions of all these amazing characters.
Exactly. I can only imagine what they do with Obi-Wan if they're still going forward in the summertime because they suspended.
Considering that's some of the crazy things Ewan McGregor's been saying, I honestly don't.
When you're in that sort of movie where you're bashing on men, obviously he's going to talk about it. So that's kind of the message of the movie. So you can't really blame him for that. That's just the writer. And if
he says what he's supposed to say.
Let's just keep going. Come on.
And he helped ruin the movie, so I guess he's kind of a hero.
Yay, Ewan! Thank you.
Actually,
in an indirect way.
Just because someone mentioned in the comments, I wonder if Lando would actually get a hard-on by looking at Toaster. Just because he has a thing for droids, apparently.
Well, Toaster has to have sassy hips.
I immediately thought of the toaster in Old World Blues and Fallout New Vegas. But
he's a brave little toaster.
Oh.
There's probably fan fiction of that too.
Toaster in like Red Dwarf. Like Lando just sees that and he's like, "Oh, I'm having that."
That is also a very good comparison. People don't know Red Dwarf in the West, but oh man, what a ridiculous British comedy.
Honestly, it's something. That's the best way I can describe it.
It is indeed, yes.
I like it because it's just weird.
Exactly what people did, because as much as hardcore fandom likes to pretend otherwise, filling in the backstory for every single character is a stupid fucking idea. It'd be like trying to make a sequel to...
So a character can't have a backstory. You can't have an interesting backstory for a character.
Well, it's not a bad idea. It's just, do you know how to make it a good idea? Can you present it well?
Obviously, Disney can't.
Yeah.
If you have the best, like any brilliant director and any brilliant team of people can make the worst idea into the best film, But the people who, obviously, the worst actor and the worst director and the worst crew can take one of the most fantastic, brilliant ideas, shove them down a toilet, and say, "This is the sequels."
Yeah.
Or these are the standalone
But
films.
again, this person likes lightsabers, force powers, and capitalism bad if he has the time in the story. If everything
And freeing
else,
slaves, lesbian energy.
Yeah. Which is a very odd thing to say considering his sexual identity, whatever that is exactly. So, yeah.
Harry Potter and deciding that instead of focusing on the core fundamental element that made that story work in a kid and his best friend growing up together, they decided to just hyperfixate on a different Dark Lord this time around and fill in all the continuity and backstories for characters that nobody asked for. And come on, Warner Brothers would never do something stupid like that.
Is that just that's
If I
Lord
were
of the
in control
Rings?
of
What
Star
Lord of the
Wars,
Rings
I'd
did.
rewrite the sequel trilogy to be about Rey and her light side Sith wife stomping out the Imperial remnants and...
Wait, what? What is he talking about?
I think he wants Rey to have a Sith wife and them to stop
Okay,
that.
all right. You know how
Why
we
can't,
talk
why can't
about...
Ray just be straight? Why can't she just go
You
end
know
up
how
with
we
some
talk
guy?
about headcanon and how these people are engrossed in their own ideas? This person is literally a slash fic writer.
That's what it seems like, yeah.
And their headcanon is literally some, lesbian story. So this is the same problem we've had from Patrick and John and all the other people that defend The Last Jedi, just up a notch, because now they actually have fan art, and they probably have a bunch of fanfic.net stories they've published. So
I think if Lana wasn't like romanceable like lesbians, I think she honestly wouldn't be upholding Lana as like one of the best characters.
Well, they wouldn't be talking about the Old Republic, period. I mean, that just wouldn't have happened,
So as long as like you can't have sex with Lana,
Yeah.
the entire everything's terrible.
Pretty much.
No,
So
the
long
Republic.
as you are a male transgender person masquerading as a lesbian, and you have that ability to express yourself.
I think Chris Chan is a transgender lesbian.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's what Chris Chan is now.
I can't follow. I have no idea what we're talking about.
I'm trying to remember. I don't know who the fuck the name is. Who's also has the same like a transgender lesbian. I think they've been against EFAP a couple times. Oh fuck! I can't even bother to try and think of it at this
And
point.
again,
Just
there's nothing wrong with having these ideas in your head, but to defend an entire franchise, what it isn't, and to say this is why it could be good, is just out of this world.
Also, this person must be just incredibly horny, just because of all the lesbian relationships they keep shipping.
Well, they're a transsexual lesbian, so it's kind of the point. I'm assuming. I could be wrong. I don't know their sexuality or their gender. I'm confused. I've been confused since the start, and we're still in the same spot, so I don't know what's going on anymore. But we understand, at least we know it's good, and that is lightsabers and Force users who are women who are also lesbians and who dislike capitalism.
Let's
If they have the
just
time.
keep going. We're nearly finished. Come on, let's get this shit over with. We've got a minute left.
One more minute. Woohoo!
bringing back the idea that the Force is inherently neutral, and put the two of them at the center of a main conflict where Luke appreciates that Rey is taking out the Imperial Remnant, but really hates the fact that she's doing it while hooking up with a Sith lady who takes a more...
Wait, they want Luke to be against lesbian. What?
Well, I mean, they've already trashed Luke enough. Might as well trash him some
keep
more.
going, man.
All of a sudden, like, Luke's homophobic. Jesus fucking Christ.
He's got to be homophobic.
Why the fuck do you want Luke to be
Republican,
homophobic?
Capitalist.
He's got to wear like a Trump hat, like make the Republic great again.
Like, all the stuff that's actual Star Wars, all the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, all the stuff that's Star Wars other than the Disney sequels. That's the stuff they want to smear and destroy. So that's why I'm saying they're not really Star Wars fans. They're just pretending to be Star Wars fans.
Just kind of a point. The Force is not neutral. There is a very clear light side and dark side. You can have a character that walks between the lines as a Grey Jedi. I think Revan is an example where it's someone who is both Jedi and Sith. But fuck.
Julie Bindo, even Krea's kind of gray. So like there are characters which are great, and that's why we like them, because they challenge us to think about what does it mean to be these sorts of characters. What is the philosophy, and why does the Jedi do what they do, and why don't they promote relationships? Why are they always so monk-ish, and why do they not believe in war? So these sorts of concepts on the surface are fine, but in the depth of what it means to be a warrior, what it means to be for peace, that's when it starts breaking down. And that's why we see that the ideas that George Lucas had weren't as well thought out or articulated as he would have liked, because he didn't understand the philosophy or the psychology of these ideas as well. I think he had an interview or some sort of presentation back in the 90s where they sat him down and he talked about what it means to be good and compassionate and completely sacrificial. That's the Jedi, and the exact opposite of that is the Sith. And that's fine. But that's just one element of Zen Buddhism or whatever, without actually contemplating, hey, you've just created a race, or rather a group of warrior monks. Guess what? We've had that in history. We've had the Shaolin monks. They fought in wars. They killed people. They developed supernatural abilities and all these other magical things. They killed people. They were badasses. They took over villages and burned them to the ground. So he only took one element of that and just used that as an adventure, which is fine, because we're not going too depth into these stories. So when it came to actually thinking about it and doing it and giving, let's say, Darth Vader depth, what happened? Very surface level. He loves someone in the most bizarre way. I don't even know if he knows how to do romance stories, but it's just the most hokiest, what would you call it? Not even soap opera quality. This is just, cringy dialogue of love, scenarios of romance and intrigue and flirting, and like, okay, fine, yeah, we get it. He's gonna fall in love with her. We get it. And then how he gets out of that and how he becomes evil is even cringier. It's like, he has the power to teach me to save my wife, who I now hate and want to crush. And you're like, wait, what's going on? So something obviously broke apart in the prequels that were hard to grasp. And I don't know if that's caused people to make their own fan fiction, like what this person is trying to do by creating more meaning with romance and slash fiction. Again, nothing wrong with that. Headcanon's great, but not for explaining what makes the actual films good. It's for explaining what makes them bad, why they're bad, why they didn't work, why there's flaws in them, why there's not much depth to Star Wars in comparison to other Star Wars or Star space opera stories. So, sorry for ranting there, just filling in the gaps. Let's keep going, guys.
Pragmatic approach to the Force and have a dual theme of the Sith Order's self-destructive tendencies and the Jedi Order's notorious myopia and hypocrisy, all wrapped up in some really good character interaction, because that's what makes a story really stick together. Yeah, it might not be philosophically deep or be able to serve as a vector for someone to talk about Joseph Campbell, but it'd be new. It'd be something...
Okay, again, what he just said there was okay. That was fine. Doesn't have to be on the same level as Joseph Campbell. Doesn't have to be philosophically deep. That's fine. But the stuff about... about the Force, all he talked about there, that was good. It's like, yeah. Philosophy, arguments, trying to understand the destructive nature of the Sith, that's a great topic. And they've addressed that in KOTOR many times. So, yeah, that's good. So he understands a little bit about what...
How the fuck is this person got like 100k subscribers?
Oh, wow, I had no idea. Holy crap.
Yeah, they have a big following. This person has a big following.
Wow. Impressed.
But I think this person is also infamous.
They have a video called Rey Deserved Better, and it's got her kissing a black...
Do better. Okay, people, do better.
I think anyone could have done better with Kylo being around, so...
I'm sure a room full of monkeys, given a finite amount of time, would have done better. Just give them like 10 minutes, a room full of monkeys would have done better than a Disney trilogy.
Get with these fucking videos. How the hell is this person gauged such a large following?
Well, I don't know, and I've never knew they were that popular, but...
Oh yeah, Smudboy, this is going to be fun for you. They're Canadian.
I'm not surprised. There's a lot of weird Canadians out there. Believe me, I've met a few. They're This is hardly that bad. I've seen a lot worse.
we don't see very often. It'd be something that shakes up the status quo of Star Wars. We've had a lot of pontificating on the nature of the Force. Let's have something campy and delightfully sapphic. It might be fun. You guys remember that?
the hell is that face?
Yeah, kind of creepy.
It's like simultaneously both like aroused and creepy. like no, what I mean, there's like she looks like she's trying to be like draw something aroused, but it also looks like she's staring at you like she wants to murder you or something.
It's one of those Disney female villains. I don't know the names, but
I just fucking kill it now.
The Avatar is
Fun?
kind of throwing
Back
me
before
off with the voice, yeah.
It does not fit the Avatar at all. No, it doesn't.
He discovered Wikia and spent the last 20 years completely ruining everything and treating consuming media like it was a second job you had to pay for.
Wow, it just ends.
Did they forgot? Did they forget? It just ends. It almost seems to end mid-sentence.
It's like they forgot that they're trying to explain things. Like in an essay format, like what YouTube videos are supposed to be. Like when you have a script, you have points, you have arguments, you have counterpoints, then you come to a conclusion. And
it ends on some note.
They did have some good point at the end there about, maybe have some depth to the Force and what it means for the Sith to be the Sith.
Do something different. Yeah.
Super chat from Mr. Todd Howard. Thank you, sir. Imagine being Canadian. Laugh out loud. Yeah, I know. We're the little brother of the Americans. I get it.
Imagine being Canadian.
We have our
I would hate being Canadian.
Yeah,
well, sorry for everything.
We sort of take a lot of inspiration from the Brits, so I guess
no, we do not associate with Canada whatsoever.
Oh no,
I can speak on behalf of all Britannians.
The Act of Canada back in 1982. Yeah, we cut our ties, but still, whenever we have a problem with Parliament, we call up the Queen. Pretty much. That's all we do. It's like, oh, we're screwed. What do we do? What does the Queen say? Yeah, you could prorogue Parliament. Oh, thanks, Queenie.
Oh, apparently Nita Sarkeesian is also Canadian.
Really?
She's Canadian? I had no idea.
I had no idea either.
I thought she was full-blooded American.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, so I don't have to claim. I don't have to claim responsibility for her anymore.
No, I'm really confused.
So, LieratureDevil, you're no longer responsible for her. It's now onto Smudboy. Smudboy, you're responsible for her.
Well, she's been a blip on the just last year. That was it. Everything else she's done in the past 10 years has been nothing.
Yeah, Nita Sarkeesian's kind of out of it.
Dead.
She's been trying to start up controversy again, but every time it's just she gets back to life for a few seconds, and then she just
she's not as extreme as what's his name that did all her videos or whatever speeches that
McIntosh,
Jonathan McIntosh. Yeah. He is holy crap, that guy exploded on YouTube and Twitter. If you want a hardcore, super hardcore feminist perspective on anything and male bashing in the process, he will make you a video. He will give you 1 million views on anything and he'll just blow it up. So.
Oh, yes, Smudboy, you're also responsible for Justin Bieber.
That I'm okay with.
Wait, all of the evil of the world, I think, came from Canada. Canada is obviously the worst place in the world. We should just nuke it.
Yeah, I can't defend that. I'm pretty much we're pretty sad. Well, we don't do too well in many areas of the world. Apparently, we have the top 10 GDP, which is what? Are you kidding me? Which is ridiculous.
Well, have Canadians ever done anything right?
I know in certain wars we blew up a machine gun pillbox, and we bombed the Germans when they were underground.
That's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, but we didn't. It was kind of a stupid thing because we got 10,000 people slaughtered, and they were Canadians. So, really bad war tactics. Some of them are really good. A lot of them really bad.
Honestly, there's so many tactics in World War II that were just so stupid. Some of there's part of it that could have been the war could have been won when French French spy planes they saw so many tanks being backed up for miles, and they considered it to be faulty information. They said, "Oh, it's not possible they had that many tanks." Next morning, they get completely flooded with tanks, and they lost all opportunity to nuke all these tanks before they even while they were still stuck on a road in traffic with no defenses.
Yeah. Okay, so as you can see from the ending screen of this gentleman's I don't know, what is this? Okay, Patreon. We got subscription, and we got some link to 108 videos. I guess they just made a playlist of their entire channel. That's kind of strange. Okay. And you see some pictures of, I guess those are horses? I don't know what cartoon characters these are. So obviously they love animation and they love the
My Little Pony? Is that
My Little Pony? Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we're
I
getting
think there's a
really
bit of Pokemon there
all
as well.
all the cans of worms are being opened with
Yeah.
on this channel. It seems.
So they
Are they
have,
furry too? They're furry. The furry shippers, My Little Pony, all the above.
yeah,
All the
it's
above. It's like a walking stereotype.
Again, as I was saying before, it's a very specific kind of fandom from Star Wars and thus taste. So if it's not lesbian, if it's not using force powers and using lightsabers and some depth, actually, some of the points are fine. Some of the points make sense, but the rest are just this weird. Everything else is crap. It's very weird. I've never seen an opinion being held this way before, of very specific things that are good and everything else is crap. It's like looking at The Last Jedi and going, well, this song by John Williams is awesome, but the rest of the John Williams stuff is garbage. You're like, whoa, what? What are you talking about? Why? How? What? So, yeah, I'm glad we covered this just because I didn't expect these.
I'm not.
Well, you don't like anything.
Whoa.
Everything we cover, you're like, why am I here? No, stop it.
This song is terrible because it's used notes that were played before.
We're always covering terrible videos. I guess maybe you lot are just getting numb to it, or maybe I'm getting numb to it. Like, I'm just gonna, like, in a year's time, I'm just gonna be there, like, say, oh yeah, they just said the thing.
Well, when I watched the first few minutes, I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. And then the last 2 minutes were like, oh boy, this is gonna be awesome.
In a weird way, I do enjoy torturing myself to this kind of stuff.
Well, this is what makes a media critic. You take all the contrary opinions, you weigh them, you understand them, and if we're lucky, we get a guy like John to come on and talk and get a first-person view.
Look, I'm just gonna say, if you ever invite this person on, I'm not gonna be part.
That's fine.
Just not.
That's fine.
This is where I draw the line and no further.
That's totally fine. I get that. Not everyone wants to talk to these people, but
just this one person specifically.
Oh, okay. If we had Wit and Folly, I'd be like, oh, please, we need everyone.
Wit and Folly.
Everyone.
Maybe I'll do Wit and Folly.
Oh God, that would be amazing. Could you imagine the arguments we could have? Okay, what do you see when you look at this picture of the X-wing? What does it represent? What do you think? What does it tell to you?
Oops.
See, these four parts are the legs spreading and coming together. This is obviously very sexual.
Have you ever read any other writing book besides things centered around the hero's journey?
The hero's journey. You know what? If she was a master of the hero's journey, I would be impressed that she knows it back to cover. Like, that would just be, I mean, wow, to read that and understand it is amazing. But to come to the conclusion she has is like, okay, what the hell is in this book? What are you reading? This is not right. That would be a heck of a conversation. I would have to actually pick that book up and read it through. And why she picked up the heroine's journey and then subsequently the American monomyth is just, I've never encountered that before. So that would be worth my time to find out where she's coming from and why American democracy is found in the last.
The reason why I wouldn't want to talk to this person is just because they've somehow managed to just come out with such a, like, it's not even out of the field, it's into fucking space. Just, they've somehow managed to come up with this perception, which is just, it's bewildering.
Yeah. No, it is very confusing.
Like, I'm not sure you could even argue anything. Like, any argument you would have this person just wouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, well, that's as best as I can understand it, but I had fun looking through the video. Thanks, guys, for joining me. I'm glad that LieratureDevil came back, and whatever problems he's having are still around. Good to rely on your unreliability on the matter.
Good old reliable problems.
If there's any other ideas for videos we should cover, please leave them in the comments after this video finishes baking. Check them out on Twitter, on Discord, on Facebook. Leave them in the comments below. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time, and have yourself a great weekend.
Again.